Good evening. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Just for members of the public, we have a combined meeting tonight. We start out with a work session, and then we're going to stay in this room and do our public meeting. Public comment will be taken at the beginning of the public meeting. The first two items on the agenda are a joy. We do them every year. I'd like to thank the Wits Club from Stillman School for attending, and I'd like to read the following proclamation. Whereas research shows that play is a crucial component of children's development. Among other benefits, play encourages creativity, improves coordination and strength, allows children to engage with one another, and provides an outlet for emotional expression. And whereas it is the duty and responsibility of product manufacturers, parents, federal and state governments to ensure that toys children play with and other products used by children are safe and encourage well-being and healthy development. And whereas in many instances, however, parents have found it difficult to access timely and accurate information about the safety of products used by their children, and American consumers have oftentimes been unaware of or confused by safety recalls of children's products. And whereas at the national level, the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission and at the state level, the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs are charged with providing consumers with relevant and accurate information regarding the safety of consumer products and assuring that these products are safe for use by the public. And whereas it is in the public interest for parents to be educated about the important role of play in children's lives and to be aware about resources available to parents to verify the safety of children's products in their homes. And whereas the Tenafly Mayor and Council urge Tenafly parents to be selective in their toys and children's products when choosing such items to bring into their homes, and as we approach the holiday season, now therefore be it resolved that I, Peter S. Rustin, do hereby proclaim the month of November as Children's Product Safety Awareness Month in the borough of Tenafly. And I will tell you this, that the reason we're making this declaration and not for the first time is a result of the hard work of the Wits Club in Stillman School, who have pursued this subject matter and advocated for it, and as a result, they're here tonight so that I can present them with this proclamation. And before I come down there, I'd just like to tell everybody else about something else that they've done. Became aware of it today. Some time ago, you may be aware of the fact that there was a project that was a potential project for a new power plant or in the Meadowlands that did not meet the standards of our environmental people. And there was a great outcry about this power plant, and the public mobilized against it. And part of the public that mobilized against it was our very own Wits Club. And to read the words of one of the organizers, their voices and the voices of other New Jersey residents were heard, and Governor Murphy has finally taken a stand against the power plant. The voices of your children, our children, were heard and seen. And we want to congratulate the Wits Club for their advocacy and their proactiveness in this subject matter. You guys made signs. You talked with other people in schools and with their families. And that's all part of this victory celebration. We're making progress. But if you understand politics even just a little bit, the war is not over. We've won the battle, but not necessarily the war, so we must be diligent. We must read the newspapers. We must pay attention to what's going on. We're one step closer to keeping our state and our country and our planet a little better off, but don't let down your guard, okay? Until this power plant is totally off the picture, we have to remain diligent. So it's my honor, yes, Nurse Hess.
Thank you, Mayor Rustin. Two of the children have something brief that they want to say to you, the council.
Please.
Go ahead, stand up. Go up close to everyone on the council so they can hear you. Nice and loud.
Want to adjust the microphone for them, please? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Layla from the Wits Club. We are here to ask you to declare November as Children's Product Safety Awareness Month. The Wits Club hopes to raise awareness for families so children can play safely. The Wits Club, along with nurses, are honored to be part of this proclamation and helping children play safe. I want to thank Mayor Rustin and the council for supporting us.
Hi, I'm Dara from the Woods Club. This is the perfect time to remind parents of the importance of safe, fun play and to be aware of the safety of children's products as they prepare for the holiday shopping season. Thank you for passing the resolution we requested and allowing us to come to the meeting tonight.
Thank you.
Councilman Park has a proclamation from the county.
So we just declared November Product Safety Awareness Month in Tenafly, and luckily my boss happens to be the county executive of Bergen County. So I asked him to make you guys up one and declare it for November in the whole county. So I'll just read out a little portion of this. You guys started this in May 9, 2013, where it passed the state New Jersey resolution and it was enacted into law. The initiative was urged by a group of 3rd through 5th grade students from Stillman Elementary School's World Improvement by Tenafly Students, WITS Club, an after-school club devoted to identifying problems in society and pushing for laws to rectify those problems. On behalf of nearly 1 million residents of Bergen County, I, James J. Tedesco, join in recognizing Child Product Safety Awareness Month and encourage all residents to engage in smart product safety practices and truly commend the dedication of the WITS members and remain committed to making life and play safer for children throughout New Jersey. Now, therefore, be resolved, I, James J. Tedesco, Executive of the County of Bergen in the state of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim November 2019 as Child Product Safety Awareness Month.
So we started out with 15,000 Tenaflycians. That's what we call people that live in Tenafly, believe it or not, Tenaflycians. And now we have 1 million residents of Bergen County. So you see what we started?
That's why Stillman's the best.
I happen to know that one woman here always has a camera, Christine. Can we get the club up here and we're going to present these 2 proclamations to you? And turn around and smile at the camera. Come a little closer.
Okay, on the camera, if you need to be looking over here, short people in the front, please. I can't see all of you. The shortest people in the front. If you can't see over the top of the person, get to the front, that's better. Okay, I can't see. Right. Okay, I can't see you. Thank you. We'd like to have all your faces. Okay, Dan, okay, that's perfect. Now, you all have to smile really nicely. That means Dan, stop grimacing.
Tenafly students. Bye.
And I have to tell you, as a former member of the Board of Education, as well as being mayor, how nice it is and how important it is to have educators such as Nurse has, and the staff at Stillman School,
And the principal.
and the people at the fire department, where fire prevention is next, educating our kids, who in turn educate our parents. Because a lot of parents might not be aware of Child Safety Product Month or fire prevention. But when the kids bring it home, we all get educated. So I want to thank the adults involved in these programs as well. Very important. And now I see our
Principal Landers here from Stillman's.
Principal Anderson.
So you can ask me.
Dale, thank you very much. It starts at the top. Thank you, Ms. Hess. And now we have our fire inspector, Alden Blackwell, our fire chief, Richard Philpott, if you don't mind coming down and presenting these awards, and I'd like the Wits Club to stay just for the fire prevention awards as well, okay? And this has been going on for a number of years, and I have to say that this is a good reason why our town is a lot safer when it comes to fire prevention, because of the work that our fire department does with our young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm Alden Blackwell, the fire bishop for the borough of Tenafly. Every year, the Tenafly Fire Prevention Bureau and the Tenafly Fire Department sponsor a poster contest during Fire Prevention Week to promote safety and fire prevention. The contest is open to all students in the elementary grades in Tenafly. That's the kids that are in grade kindergarten on up through grade 5. The schools who participated this year in the poster contest were McKay, Long, Smith, Stillman, and Our Lady of Mount Carmel. This year's theme for the poster contest was Not Every Hero Wears a Cape. Plan Your Escape. The idea behind this theme was to get children to understand that they need to find another way out, or any way out that they can get wherever they are to get to safety. The posters are grouped by grade, and the judges pick the first, second, third, and honorable mention winners in each grade, and one overall winner. The honorable mention, third, second place winners receive a certificate and a ribbon. The first place winner receives, in each grade, receives a certificate, a ribbon, and a trophy.
Wow.
In addition, the overall winner receives a $50 award from the Tenafly Fire Association. Okay? Assisting me in presenting these awards tonight will be Fire Chief Richard Philpott and Councilman Park. Okay? When your name is called, please come up here to the front here, and we will award you your award, your trophy, and certificates. The awards are, I'll start off with kindergarten. The award for honorable mention is Stella Yang. Third place in the kindergarten category is Kayla Choi.
Schmendricks.
I'm not sure I want to be behind if there's a fire.
I was fast, I got her.
Thank you.
Second place is Reese Marciano. Did I say that right?
Look over here, please. Smile.
First place in kindergarten is Amy Joe from Our Lady of Mount Carmel.
Used to be in New Zealand, Mount Carmel, one or two elementary schools, and then divided up into 4 schools.
Perfect smile.
Moving up to first grade. Honorable mention is Shoka Okuma. Shoka is from Smith School.
Really? I'm so sad Mom's not here. Mom was here last year.
Look over here, sweetie, smile. Big smile. Perfect.
Third place is Jarella Rendell from the K School.
Okay, look at me and smile. Dan, I miss you. Perfect, thank you.
Second place is Logan Miller from the K School.
Come on over here, sweetie. Look at me. Perfect. Big smile. Little smile. Grimace. Perfect.
First place from Smith School is Daphne Sonnen.
Sonio.
Sonia. Sonia.
Maybe I didn't say that right. First name is spelled D-A-T-H-A-N. Last name is
Daphne.
S-O-N-I-O-N. Not here?
Daphia Sonio?
Daphna Sonia.
Sonio?
Okay, we'll hold that on the side.
On behalf of that,
The person who can pronounce the name, right?
Accepting the award.
we've got the Seinfeld that, with the Meatball.
Honorable mention. Ben McKay School. Snyder, McKay School.
Can I ask you a question? Didn't it used to be better wireless service?
Perfect, nice big smile. That's it. Nice big smile. Perfect, thank you.
Second place for McKay School again is Susan Wang.
I got it, it's fine.
First place, again from McKay School, is Tobiah Nicole.
When your wife has that, what's the job?
I know you could do something as well, just that you never see the dog running around.
Your neighbor's gonna die?
Yeah, they were just finding out the dog. So the dog,
Okay, come on over here, please.
they walked towards the house.
Dog's friendly?
Oh,
No, I'm very, I have to be very careful with my dog, especially when they're open doors. Like yesterday, it's a German football. If they weren't on a leash, they would have taken off him. If I wasn't careful, they pulled me right down. Yeah, they're only 60 pounds each, but they're still like, if they would decide to go in the same direction at the same time, I would go there.
I don't know what this dog saw, because she's really good. I let her out.
My dog don't like to see anything. They're just very anxious, and sometimes they just, for no reason at all, they just yank.
Third place,
And very,
Rachel Clark.
Perfect. Thank you.
Second place, McKay School, Soon Young Wang.
What's next? Okay,
First place, Stillman School, Anna Kim.
This is up to grade 3? What grade?
Grade. what grade was that? I wasn't here.
What? First grade?
I was only done kindergarten.
Third grade?
That was the third grade? So we're done? We're done. The overall. The grand prize.
Still,
Honorable mention, Claire Park.
She's shy.
smile. Dan, smile.
From Smith School, Claire Ewing.
Very nice. Hold it up. Okay, smile. Very good. Thank you.
Did she just say fifth grade? Kids are getting bigger.
Third place, Stillman School, Samuel Isaac. Our Lady of Mount Carmel, Rebecca Cho. First place from Our Lady of Mount Carmel is Yumi McIntosh. Best overall poster contest winner for 2019 is Yumi McIntosh, Our Lady of Mount Carmel.
Should not give out two trophies in the same person. Should have had trophy distributed.
Okay, that concludes the awards for tonight. The Tenafly Fire Prevention Bureau and Fire Department want to thank you and your children for participating in this contest. And we would like you to join us, after the pictures are taken outside in the next room, back in the fire prevention meeting room for some cookies and juice.
We're going to take a 2-minute break.
Stillman rules.
So you kids have a choice between cookies and juice, or you can stay and listen to our meeting. Okay, next item on the agenda is the purchase of police vehicles. The chief is here, and Susan, what do we have?
Okay, so the chief is requesting another vehicle, and he would like to talk about it with the governing body. And I support this because they brought in a lot of reimbursement money into their purchase of vehicles line item in the budget. So they have enough to cover an additional vehicle.
Without taking any tax money?
Right.
Okay.
Good
Chief?
evening. Just a correction, it's a purchase of police vehicle, not plural. For the last 4 years in a row, we were going with 3 cars per year. I think I had come to you folks every year and I'd say something with a 3-vehicle replacement rate of something out of a 22-vehicle fleet, something that replaces cars that on average is 7 years on average. Before 4 years, 5, 6 years ago, something we had a 2-vehicle replacement rate of 22 vehicles. That's replacing a car every 11 years. It's just, that's too long. You know, something, we have some cars in the fleet that are in bad shape. Something, so to try and maintain that 3-vehicle replacement rate, in January, February, something, the council voted to increase the outside duty vehicle fee rate from $75 to $125. 2019 was a banner year for outside duty work. It was with a lot of different towns. A lot of jobs were called in, a lot of jobs were worked. Same thing in 2018. So with a lot of jobs coming in, with you folks also too increasing the rate from $75 to $125, there's $55,000 surplus in that line right now. That's with buying the car that you already allotted. I need to back up a little bit also too. So for the last 4 years, from 2014 to 2018, there was $62,000 on average put in that vehicle purchase line. This year, only $35,000 was put in that line. I think the assumption is that you pay for one car and that the vehicle fees would cover the upfitting and then some. Well, it did that and then some. So car and upfitting has already been paid out of it. Capital covered another car, and there's $55,000 in that purchase a vehicle line, and I'm in need of another car. That's, again, to try and stay with that 3 vehicles per year. I have 2 on order, I haven't gotten them yet. Money's already been encumbered, that's not in these numbers. But I would like to get a 3rd car and a 3rd vehicle also too. Looking for an administrative car. The captains are driving 2 old Explorers, maybe you've seen them. One's red and one's silver. The silver one is becoming a rust bucket. There's cancer all through it. And the red one, Captain O'Reilly drives. The actual, I kid you not, the steering mechanism actually let go the other day on Ivy Lane, and he was driving a vehicle with no steering, and it actually went over the curb and almost hit a tree, so that's being replaced. So these cars, the Silver Explorers are 2003, and the red ones are 2005.
Chief, you have 55 in there. What will the car you're looking at cost?
So I'm looking to do is the car will be about $36,000, and the upfitting, which can run you up to about $15,000 for a patrol vehicle, will only be $5,000.
So all in is 41?
It's an administrative car, so there'll be about $14,000 surplus in there, which I'm not that can be used for other overages. And also to keep in mind also too, we're only in the middle of November, so I would imagine another $5,000 to $10,000 should be actually accrue in that account over the next month and a half. So I'm looking at.
So what's the all-in number?
The all-in would be about $41,000.
$41,000? Any thoughts from the governing body?
I think that we should allow that because it's part of their earned money.
Well, I think my biggest concern is the safety of the officers. The fleet needs some assistance here, and since the money is there. Anybody else have any feelings about it?
Go ahead, no, you were first for now.
I agree, it's a good idea to, we should care about the safety of the police officers, and we should have a fleet that is required or good for use. Has the fleet always been at 22 cars? Or?
It was higher in the past. It was probably about 24. It's gone down to 22. Now, I don't include the emergency response vehicle and a motorcycle, because they're just unique, but it's 22 vehicles. That's a combination of black and white marked patrol cars, some unmarked cars for traffic purposes, some unmarked cars for the Detective Bureau, and a couple other unmarked cars for myself and the captain. So there are some days where basically you'll drive by some days you drive by and there's a lot of cars. Some days you drive by and there's not a car there. So this is not a matter of, we can go with a smaller fleet. 22 seems to be the number that basically has been good with. I think the council over the last couple of years, I think that's something that has been palatable for you also too. I try and maintain that. So if I get 3 cars in, 3 cars go out. Whatever comes in goes out. As a matter of fact, I might even be less than 22 right now because actually we've had a couple cars we've auctioned off that were in bad shape. I tried to also be creative also too with forfeiture funds. We thought we were gonna be actually seizing a car, but,
Mark, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, are you getting rid of or repairing the car that's missing the steering?
we are repairing it.
Yeah, okay.
And so with getting this car, if you approve me to get this car, then one of these cars will be moved on down to the outside duty fleet, or will be auctioned off. If you auction off a vehicle, something that is obviously functional, you get more money out of it. The vehicles that are auctioned off actually go back to the general fund. That doesn't.
Susan, do you have the answer?
No, I think that they brought in almost $92,000 in outside duty this year, so I think it more than pays for the vehicle.
All right, Chief, you got it.
Can I ask a few questions? I'm not related specifically to the car, but take advantage of the fact that you are here. We are just gonna approve a payment for a third or half of the contract that you have for maintenance. And part of the contract over there, it's a lump sum. When I looked at the contract the first time, it was some sort of a per item payment. How does this work with paying a lump sum? And are there specific car maintenance that are included and are not gonna be any more billed to us, or how does it work, Chief?
I'm confused. This is the vehicle service contract with
Yeah.
with Clinton Auto?
Yes.
That I believe we pay quarterly.
Yeah, so when we pay one of those, let's say $10,000, we also pay anytime you go to do some sort of a oil change or so, because they were.
Oh, right,
So
right.
what is this for? What does include and what does not include? I mean, you pay $10,000. You also pay by the drink anytime you go over there. What does this $10,000 cover?
I'm unaware that you paid a lump sum. I thought, in my impression, that basically we get billed and we pay for services.
Well,
That's what I want to.
We have
I
Susan.
think they have a service agreement, and I
Well,
forget how
right,
much
right,
it is,
but,
like,
but
and
but
then, what's
as
covered
they
in
service
this?
things, they bill us.
Yeah.
So I saw on I check every single bills, yeah? And I see many of these bills from Clinton, like for tires and all the other stuff, almost in every single of the months that we have.
Right.
So on top of that, that basically is for service, I see this very large bill. Is this very large bill with a long list of included for this, for this, for this?
That is itemized, we absolutely have that, and, you know, you mentioned some of these exorbitant costs. Some of them from these older cars, actually we have a black
No,
Ford.
I understand that.
But we
It's
have
just
some cars that basically had some major, a heater core, a instrument panel.
Well,
So,
Chief, what I hear, Max
There's
is
a
asking a
service
reasonable
agreement.
question, and Susan, I think you're qualified to answer it.
There's a
Do we,
service
when you make a lump payment of significant amount, do you have a series of bills that tie into that amount?
yeah.
And why are those bills lumped together rather than paid individually like the other bills you're talking about? Is there a system here that we
well,
adhere to?
They bill us quarterly, but Jeannie has an item, actually, Clinton Auto sends us the itemized bills. Our vehicle fleet maintenance personnel, a couple officers, go through it, make sure that it jives, and then payment is.
No, but the
submitted.
question I'm hearing Max ask, and I'm curious myself, is what determines whether a bill is paid individually or gets lumped into that larger bill? In other words, there's smaller bills every month, there's bills, tires, oil changes, et cetera. And then, is it quarterly that we get a large
I
bill?
think for the most part, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, the quarterly are
The big jobs?
Some of them are included, but some of like a transmission would probably be a separate, maybe a broken out. Tires could be a little bit different, because I think tires, we might have been trying to go with an outside vendor, so maybe it's getting charged back to that same line. But are you saying all the bills are going to Clinton Auto?
Yeah, I saw some bills for Clinton Auto, and when I checked, and as a matter of fact, checked with every bill, and said, okay, those are 4 tires at $115 per tire, total bill $450 when I'm asked. So there are some separate bills, and now there is a big bill. I understand now from you that the big bill has underneath a whole list of laundry that has every single one. it was just kind of a understanding why the process, I could not understand the process, why some of them are separate, so one of them gets built up.
I think ideally they would be all in one place, and every once in a while one's broken out. It's a 22 vehicle fleet, they go 24/7, they're in and out a lot, we go through tires. I think if you had your own personal car 24/7, it would need a lot more service.
There was not, okay.
One last question, Chief. If you remember, in the past, we talked about this, and I was under the impression that we were going to have a maintenance log for every vehicle. So in other words, if we have a particular vehicle, we could call up and get a sense of what we spent on that particular car over the course of the year?
Clinton Auto has that, they have that, yes.
Well, that doesn't, we don't have that? We should have, I was under the impression that we agreed some time ago that we were going to maintain fleet records, that each car would have its own page with every time there was an expense charged against that car, it'd be listed there, so we could look at the 2012 Lexus and decide what it cost us in the last year. That would be a factor in going in to decide whether or not to replace the car.
I will check with Clinton Auto to get these, and then it'll actually be well suited because for this new budget season, which is coming up also too.
And if Clinton Auto maintains that, we should have it also.
Correct.
There's no reason.
But they do have in their database the expenses that are associated with the car, which is a car number.
I have another question, and I'm sorry that, we are just looking over here, I'm gonna approve part of the consent agreement, a contract with a Paramus Center, State Center for repair for the DPW trucks and everything else. I went through all the prices of the DPW, and I just compared some of them with what prices that we get in from Clinton Auto. And I know that Clinton is so much more convenient because it's rather, but for example, one of them that jumped in my eyes, it was something, for example, for a truck, changing oil with 8 quarts of oil, the Paramus Center is charging $60. We had a conversation when we contracted, there was $100, you reduced it to about $90 by negotiating with them. The question in my mind is, should we use that type of agreement for your fleet, or is it too cumbersome to have somebody out of town maintaining your fleet?
It is, like you said, very convenient to have them like basically 2 blocks away. So the car's disabled, you can get actually they come and they work on the car in town. The ordinance says if there's a problem with the car, they have to come get it. I don't know if Paramus would actually do that. It works very well to have them very, very close.
So the convenience will overcome the issue of the price?
Right now, I mean, well, there's a price out there that obviously would change things. I don't know what that is, but it is ultra convenient right now.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Chief. Next on the agenda is the 2020 calendar. I would assume the calendar is pretty much,
I have an issue with it, actually. Sorry. On April 7th, I would like to switch the April dates. That's the school break, the April 7th date. All the schools are off. It's like 5 days in a row holiday. So a lot of our public won't be here. Schools are out. So I was wondering if we could rotate the weeks in April.
You think we'll have less people than we have here tonight?
Well, I think.
Just joking.
we're concerned about that also.
Exactly. But I would think it would behoove us to have our public meetings when the public is here.
Of course.
So Easter is 4/12, Passover starts on the 8th. So if we flip the weekends, flip the Tuesdays to the opposite 2 Tuesdays, we actually don't run into either holiday.
Well, hold on a second, because, Susan,
Yes.
if we were to move April 7th to April 14th,
Or maybe we do 2 back-to-backs.
you're doing back-to-back, but you're also running from the 24th of March, you're running about 21 days between meetings when bills don't get paid, et cetera.
Well, that whole week, the 6th through the 10th is,
How's Thursdays work that week?
no, everyone's off that week. It's the school break is that whole week. It's the
What about
6th
the
through
Thursday?
6th through the
before?
10th, everyone's off.
Is that where, 6 through 10?
Can they do the Thursday before?
You want to do the Thursday before, which would be the 2nd?
I'm comfortable with that. if
June
everyone else-
16th?
so the second,
2 and 16.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move that to Thursday,
it is.
April 2nd.
But I'm gonna be away.
Now, the other question is the recess/reorganization meeting. Now, years past, many years ago, we used to do it on the first of the year. People decided that was not convenient. The first is a Wednesday. By law, what is the latest we can do it, Susan, or does Omar?
The first.
So we could do it, we could do it on the Saturday or the Sunday.
Do we need a weekend, or
So
do you want to do it on the
January 4th.
Thursday night?
I think we should do it on Saturday.
On Saturday.
So we
I'm fine
have
with
a
Saturday.
celebration after that.
The 4th.
Yeah, the 4th, and we have a celebration after
Mr. Michaels is in the audience. Does the 4th work for you?
that.
Okay.
And Mark
Okay,
is happy with
So
it.
the
4th?
Yeah, and let's
Saturday?
do it, let's say at 10 o'clock, 11, and then we're done at 12. And then we can have a big lunch.
Well, we've never start that early. We usually start around 12.
All right, 12 is fine,
To 12,
12,
12
Saturday,
noon.
12
January.
noon, then 11, 1, and we'll be
So
done.
usually by 12:30, you have that little
Nash.
inside, 1 o'clock, and you're done by 1:30, 1:45.
Okay.
So 12 noon on January 4th.
Okay.
Okay,
Just,
excuse me?
Tuesday, May 21st.
yeah, it's a Thursday.
19th or Thursday.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I
I
was
wrote,
just
why
about
not,
to
why
say
not May
that too.
19th?
It's probably a typo.
Okay, so that should be the 19th, May 5th, May 19th.
Yeah, it was like, yeah.
And then we don't bump
Yeah.
into Jewish holidays, I was checking.
Yes, I checked that too.
Okay.
Okay, next
Quick,
is
quick
the,
question regarding the reorganization meeting. As far as food is concerned, do you want to provide the usual hors d'oeuvres from, say, Cheese, or you have another place in mind?
Just do what you normally do.
Okay, I
He
thought
doesn't know what he normally does.
Well, he did. He said Che Cheese is usually where we
Say
get it.
cheese or La Promenade, where do we do it?
They usually do Che Cheese. Whatever was done last year was fine.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Next on the agenda is an RFP for the Labor Council and the Borough Engineer. If that's the consensus of the governing body, then
Right, so-
it's the administrator that normally takes.
Right, I asked for that to be put on the agenda if the council agrees to put RFPs out for both the Labor Council and the
Let's-
Borough Engineer with the view to having multiple borough engineers,
Well, I'm sorry?
with the view to having more than one borough engineer.
How
In
would
other
you-
words, you have an engineer of record, and then you have engineers you're eligible to hire for specific projects if the council chooses to.
Well, you can do that now.
So I want to make sure we're able to do that for next year,
Not, we don't
Is
have
there not-
anybody.
because we only have
Exclusive.
one engineer
we
of
don't
record
have
right now.
anybody to bid out.
I'm sorry?
We only have one engineer, Mazer.
Well, you can't have two borough engineers. What you can.
No, you have one borough engineer and then other engineers who you're able to call upon on a project-by-project basis. But you have one engineer of record.
Bill? Have you ever heard?
of it, but,
I haven't either.
They do it in the.
you really only have one official.
One official engineer, correct. I went through the discussion with Lizette. You have,
There's-
One official.
Hold on. There's a couple of questions here. Do you want to go out for an RFP for a borough engineer?
correct.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's,
Yes.
No,
that's.
but the question I think he's raising is, in addition to, is there anything in the, that requires us
Bylaws.
to only state, to only have one borough engineer and nobody else, to the exclusion of everybody else?
Well, you have one municipal engineer,
Correct.
but what would the others be, though?
So-
For individual projects.
So if we wanted to choose a different engineer for individual products, we would have the freedom to do that.
Well, first of all, you have to understand, if,
Without bidding.
you'd have to go, no, you can't, how can you do that? You have to
each
go out to bid.
project. You have to bid
Right.
each
And
project.
plus, we
I
have
know,
to
but
do a
would you then
resolution now
limit the
not to
bidding
exceed
to
a
just
certain
the
amount
ones
for
that
engineering
you've,
services, not to
you've
exceed
gotten the
awarding.
RFPs
Have to do
on?
resolutions.
That's for the,
this
that's
kind
for
of
the
So-
main engineer.
Maybe I can help.
That we just, it's,
I doubt it, because.
Oh, okay, well, you do that, yeah. Well,
Right.
yeah.
The RFP is just for the main
But
engineer.
the
and-
RFP is only for one engineer.
Correct.
Correct. We want the ability to go out and bid with other engineers if we.
So
right,
that
okay.
would be part of the contract you have with the borough engineer.
Correct.
Whoever you choose would allow you the latitude of going out. But, you know, just keep in mind that one of the reasons people have a borough engineer is because when you have a project, you have a need for an engineer, they're there.
Right, so
You know,
I need-
if you-
Understood.
if
I
you-
need to
If
say
you want, if you don't have a borough engineer, or you tell the borough engineer, you know what, you're our borough engineer, but we want the right to go out, you know, for various projects, you're basically telling him he's the borough engineer in name only.
That's right.
And the end result is, the quality and you think the speed of services is slow now. When you start downgrading the position, you're not gonna get better service,
All right.
regardless of whether it's Mazer or anybody else.
May I say something? The issue of having multiple engineers is a little bit different. You have an engineer of record, and you have 3, 4, or 2 or 3 other engineers that during the selection process are selected as being able to work on the, based on specific projects. But they are selected already, and you have this specific engineer who's the engineer of record, and 2 or 3 other that are already selected. When you have a major project or a project, you basically go and ask everybody to bid on it. Other communities have done that, Fairlawn, Fairview have done it, and they
Have done what,
seen-
Max?
have multiple engineers, as I said, with one of the record and 2 or 3 other which were selected up front, and they are able then to participate in the work.
I think you're confusing certain aspects. For example, when we did a project such as the DPW building or the police building, you can go out and hire a different engineer. That has nothing to do with who the borough engineer is. When you start splitting up the job, you're splitting up responsibilities, and every time you go out for bidding, you're a veteran here, you understand the process. Nothing gets done. You're gonna, look, I'm not gonna be involved, but I think this is a terrible, you want to switch engineers, that's fine.
Well, that's, at the end of the day,
When you start splitting this up,
that's,
you're gonna end up
that,
with no service at all.
what we're looking to do, waiting for the conversation to finish.
Omar, just-
See, there's, when you send out for professional services, I know that something was newly instituted for resolutions where you had to put in there for professional services that it cannot exceed a certain amount for our auditors, for our lawyers, for, you know, borough attorneys, everybody. When this, when we go out for RFP for the borough engineer, we're also gonna have to put in the resolution that it cannot exceed a certain amount, but then what happens if we have other engineers?
Don't we bid them individually?
Yeah,
I don't know how that would, it would be contingent upon the
You
project.
say we have X project, we want to put out an RFP for that particular
Exactly.
project.
Exactly.
exactly.
With these price parameters and everything.
But you have to select those people
you have
in
to have a
advance,
project, though.
so they can
You folks-
immediately.
You can't have a general, like,
No, like we
RFP
wanna-
for.
How are you gonna determine
yeah,
who's
you know,
gonna do
We
what?
want to redo
You know,
bid out and then.
What?
you guys seem to be very upset with the, I think, with the service that you're getting provided by Mazer. And up until about 5 years ago, we had David Halls as the borough engineer. He was a very small firm. He was relatively inexpensive, and the quality of the work was good, if not good, even better than good. The only problem with David was, as a small firm, he didn't offer all of the services you get from a major firm like a Mazer. So we took on Mazer, you know, and be honest, I was not supportive of that at the time. Our engineering costs probably tripled, and everybody's concerned about that, but I will tell you this, compared to the other firms that are out there, and I'm not advocating, you guys can do whatever you want, but compared to the other firms out there, I have a little notebook full of all of the issues other towns have had with other engineering firms where the work isn't done right and work has to be done a second and a third time. I would just suggest that you be very careful in your desire to get rid of the firm you have now. You just be very careful, because when you go out for an RFP, they promise you everything. But sometimes the devil you have is better than the devil in the whatever.
I mean, I concur. I'm not saying that you're in any way incorrect, but I think what we're just talking about is maybe a little flexibility and the lack of exclusivity, or, and not making it exclusive and having the flexibility to go out if necessary.
Just as long as you understand the advantages
Sure,
of exclusivity.
Mhm.
You've got somebody on call,
Of course.
okay?
But, yes, agreed.
All right, so we will be forward with it.
Well, it sounds like there's a consensus to do an RFP for the borough engineer, and I think what you want to do, if what I'm hearing correctly, is when you decide on that engineer, and probably when you interview people, you're going to tell them what your desire is, so that, there may be firms that aren't interested in splitting
That's
the
correct.
job.
That's correct.
Exactly.
Okay. But you're also going to find that almost any firm wants to get their foot in the door. This is a very nice community to work for.
Absolutely.
The other part of this, Mark, is an RFP for a labor council.
Correct.
And from what I've heard over the last few months, I think you folks there's a consensus to do that. Although I don't disagree with some of even though they were self-serving, some of the comments we heard from our labor attorney, the end result has been pretty darn good, just the cost is a factor. But what I'm told, no experience, some of the other firms that you would consider to be competitive with his firm from a size perspective and a reputation perspective may even be more expensive.
We'd like to learn what other options are out there.
Well, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, administrators report?
One sec. Susan, do you know what other contracts are up this year? Or expiring
Yeah,
this year?
weren't we supposed to make a schedule of that? And I know that's not you, but.
Yeah, like the
Omar, you weren't here for this
judge,
discussion.
the
Yeah.
prosecutor, they are up for the,
No. Contracts.
We were supposed to task,
you have
Union
a,
contracts, union
all
contracts.
we wanted a schedule as to when each union contract was going to be renegotiated. And we wanted 6 months before that date
okay, that's a
on the
different.
calendar.
Yeah, we're talking about two.
Omar, for the next meeting,
Put that on.
review all of the appointments that are made, that are going to be made on the reorg meeting, and let the council know. I believe that the judge is up, and I'm not 100% sure. I think he's up, the engineer is up, the borough attorney is a yearly appointment. So whatever,
I believe those are all.
I don't, Peter,
They're-
I don't believe
They're
that,
one-year appointments.
I don't believe the judge is,
Judge is 2 years.
isn't the judge a 3-year appointment?
Just-
I don't believe he's up this year, though.
it
I
may
thought we
not be.
just hired him.
So we have to
find
find
Yeah,
out
I
about
don't
Judge
believe he's-
Bell.
All right. And now, what you were talking
She's talking
about,
about the
the
labor.
contracts, that's something that I was working with Susan for a long
The
time.
labor contracts.
To
yeah.
have a catalog of all the contracts in a system that would
Oh,
automatically
that.
notify you, okay, here's the
Time to
contract.
discuss this contract
Exactly.
3 months before it needs to
Exactly.
get negotiated.
A
We have
tickler
a
system.
pretty extensive list.
Good,
Okay, and the only thing is, we don't have it yet into an automated format.
Okay.
That
It's
is
started,
notified. It's, yeah, so we'll work it out by the end of the year.
Administrators report.
Okay. So, there was a grant submission that was submitted during the last week of October and the first week of November. John Sullivan and I supplied detailed information to Mazer Consulting. It was for the NJ Transit S-Rides application. It's a grant for senior services minibus.
who's John
So-
Sullivan? I'm sorry.
He's the senior services
Transportation
transportation, no.
He runs the bus.
Transportation coordinator,
Okay.
right.
He's
Just-
phenomenal.
Great,
He's over in the
He's
senior
okay with
center,
that.
right, he's excellent.
good.
Specifically, we're seeking to expand the fleet with the purchase of one minivan and a 50% match for the salary for one additional driver.
Do we have total pricing on that?
No, not yet, we're just,
This is the grant,
right,
but I'm saying we don't know how much we'd have to put up.
not yet.
Yeah,
It's
just as an example.
just, they asked a whole bunch of questions right now about our budget, what our operating budget is, what we foresee next year. That's it.
But
You know, who's
to answer, I have
in
the
the department, the
numbers.
org chart. Oh, you did?
I have the
You did.
numbers. To give you an example, the bus that we purchased right now, which is a 17 or a number 16 seat for the bus, was $70,000. We budgeted for 80,000. It came out to 70,000. We are now looking for a smaller bus because on a regular basis, the buses are not filled up not even 50%.
Like a van.
So a 10, as a rough number, if you want, that bus will be in the 50s to 60s.
It might be even less, because the total cost of that other one was a little bit less than that, it was like 63.
Yeah, so
63.
just to give you an example of that, and if we can get 50% of the driver, right now we're paying $20 for the driver per hour.
Right.
Consider that as basically 80, consider like about 6-7 hours per day, multiply by 5, and you'll figure out what's the total number.
If we don't get the grant, is there talk about getting rid of the bus and then buying 2 little vans or
No,
anything?
no, at this time, selling the bus at this time will not generate enough cash to buy 2 additional bus. So what we were gonna have to do, is basically maintain the bus and use it as efficiently as possible.
And there's no way to use that for any public transportation with government?
That's a different story with public transportation. We now have a second bus that is coming in town. It's a private bus that probably you saw, besides the public transportation. So the question of having the need for a additional bus, it's alleviated by the Ninja bus or something like that, the new bus service.
Yeah.
Hip bus.
The hip bus.
Let's move on. The administrator's report.
Wait, before you go on, can you ask Lizette about the 5310 grant?
What's that?
It's a bus grant, I just don't remember. It's from NJ Transit. I just don't remember where it was.
What it was called, 310?
5310.
Oh, 5310 grant, okay. All right. So at the last meeting on October 24th, we discussed Pfister's Pond, and I called Gerald Reiner, he's the Director of Purchasing at the county, who indicated that we have a co-op with Aqua Technologies. They will come to our site and they can provide us with an actionable estimate. And once we get the estimate, we can enter into a shared service agreement with the county, and that would be for services, equipment, and dumpsters. And they also said that we may be able to obtain an operator for them, but they can't promise it right now.
Oh, what?
An operator to do the work.
Well,
And
when you say a shared service agreement, are they going to pick up 100% of the cost, 50% of the cost?
I don't have all the details yet because they were supposed to send me more information.
Well, that is a minor detail.
Well, we've got to start. He said right now to get Aqua Technologies over to the site so that they could give us the estimate, so that you know how many days it'll take to hydro-rake the pond. And then what they do is they pull all the contents out and they put it aside and let it dry out. And then there's an individual, I think his name is Ed Ravatine,
Sure.
and he would then pick up from there. And then there would be a conversation and a discussion about the disposal of the debris or whatever's in there.
Okay.
The
That's good.
muck.
Can't hurt.
How
Yeah.
how would that work? I think Aqua Technologies was one of the companies that we were,
Mm-hmm.
one of the 3 companies that they had mentioned. And how would that work if we needed to then bid?
Well, we
If
wouldn't
we're
have to
already-
bid
We wouldn't have
because
to
we're
bid.
part of a
So we
cooperative.
would do either the bid or the shared services.
Right, you'd probably do the cooperative if they
They've
give
already
us a
bid.
good amount. So he did send me the county did
do the
send me
co-op.
some
They've
other
It's an option.
information.
It's
Yeah.
an option.
I mean, I'm only saying, we get the shared services, we say, oh, they're coming, so all of a sudden, once you do that, you don't
Well,
know
it's-
how much they would
If we're
competitively
gonna see an
bid.
estimate,
Well, from what I saw, from what the engineering firm Mazer sent for the one that they did in Morristown versus what I saw on the bid from the county looked like the bid was very reasonable. Not the bid, working with the co-op was very reasonable.
so how
Okay.
quickly can we get them in here before the pond freezes?
Right.
To get this estimate, because I'd like this estimate before everything's covered.
This is
in snow.
probably gonna be something they do next year because of the ground becoming very cold.
Well, that's what I'm saying, like, can we get
I
them
don't-
now?
The
Can
quote-
we get them
They
in
could-
immediately?
We could call them and then, contingent on their schedule, then they could come out.
See if you can get them in ASAP, because.
Before the winter.
Well, that's what I wanted to know. Do you want me to proceed?
But there's a second part to this that
Go
you
ahead.
sort of mentioned quickly, is that removal of the material, which has been a large cost, right?
The largest
And,
So
and,
they will supply the dumpsters?
The county shared services.
Yeah.
right.
And then,
outside the code.
I think then, if you have the operator, it says, they'll have dumpsters at the start of the hydro raking, and then I think they take the dumpsters.
I'm sorry, but
We don't have to rent the dumpster.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that they take it. That's something we would need to confirm, because that's one of the huge costs in there. And it
That's all I
doesn't even
have to
make sense to force someone to get up there and give us a quick estimate when that's only gonna give us half the picture at that point.
But that's when you have to hear from Ed Rabatini,
Right.
Right.
all of the options.
Yeah.
For
We need
shared
them both.
services, if the parks needs them,
Right.
if there's a landfill they have to fill or something.
So
they'll
we're gonna
have
need
options.
really both in tandem.
Exactly.
So I didn't hear them.
Completely.
Susan, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. I heard about the operator and the dumpsters. I didn't hear the word hydro raking. They do
All right.
the actual
They-
hydro raking, or they don't?
No.
They will get, the operator may do they may be able to supply us with an operator.
Do the
I
hydro
thought-
raking?
We're doing a whole
Or
shared
no,
service,
Aqua
but not getting
Technologies
equipment.
would come.
Aqua Technology
Yeah,
does the.
does the hydro raking.
Is that a shared service?
No.
No,
So
that's-
there's a Bergen
okay.
County co-op that pre-bid this, because they're gonna hydro rake all over the county. You
Yes.
can jump on this contract, because they pre-bid it for the large their bid came in low because they're so big.
They are
Right.
what technology.
No, as in the county,
The
county's
county.
co-op, we are part
Right.
of it, because we're part of the county.
But when you
What's-
say they
what is
came
in
with a
there?
bid,
Aqua Technologies
Aqua
won the bid,
Technologies.
because,
Right.
Okay.
with the co-op. Susan talked with Gerald, the pricing was pretty good, so if Aqua Technologies comes in with a estimate, beats ours, obviously, whatever, they do the work.
So we're
Now-
just getting the co-op price, but we're paying for it.
Correct.
County isn't.
Correct.
The county isn't paying a part of it.
Correct.
They're just getting us a better
Now,
price.
now that work is done, the muck, we can use county services, equipment, and dumpsters. Meaning there's another savings
So
there.
that's savings.
That's the shared
small
service agreement
Right.
part. We're
Then-
using their equipment, their
We have to have a
stuff.
conversation about
Now,
disposal.
with the shared service agreement, there could be a second part of that, disposal.
Mm-hmm.
If the county parks, if the DPW, if whatever, they have a use for the muck. 'Cause remember, they're refilling the Powell Park portion of Overpack by the river. If it's what Andy said, if you can shred it with leaves. There,
Then they need it.
So it has to be done in steps.
exactly.
But we can't do
I
the
have to get the
project like
price.
that.
Well,
We
I have
need
to
the
get the
whole
price
thing.
first.
Yeah, the whole.
If we're gonna go ahead and do this, we can't hydro rake and then decide not to remove, because that stuff
Oh,
smells.
no, I mean,
and-
first I have to
No,
get the
you don't. It's all
estimate,
removed.
then we could talk to Ed Ravatine to
Which he'll
proceed.
draft.
Right.
We're in a generic shared services with the county already through a resolution. Ravatini will get you more info on the
Right.
specifics of that shared service agreement.
What happens if it comes out higher than what we've set aside, even with the shared services?
It won't.
I don't think it's going to.
It won't.
It's not going to.
We always have the option not to do it.
Yeah.
That's
you don't
why I
like the
need a
price, you
total
don't do
sense
it.
of this
No,
project.
but I can
But
tell
This
you
is
from-
probably
I
gonna
can
be the
tell you
best
it's
price
not
you're ever gonna
going to.
get.
The numbers.
I agree with you, Mayor. I just wanna make sure that the price
Well,
still,
they don't start until we sign off on
Yeah,
it.
we're
We're not
gonna
gonna
get the
sign off it
price
until we
and
get a price.
and I'd be
You
curious to know, we have a bid now, not a bid, but a quote
Estimate.
now, an estimate, for a certain percentage of the pond at a certain depth. I'd wanna know what they recommend too, as an independent look at it. Because it's not just, what the price per square foot is, it's just how much do they think we have to do? If they say 1 acre and the other place says 2, I'd be curious to see that.
Actually, we're telling them that.
What?
We tell them that.
Yeah.
We,
Do all 4 acres.
but
Do 3 acres.
I'm relying on a
We tell them.
professional to tell me. I don't know how to hydro rake, so I'm not gonna tell you whether 1 acre or 2 acres has to be
Well,
done.
I learned a little bit today. It's gonna be cubic yards.
Unless
You can be our expert.
You have,
Whatever.
you
Cubic
do
yards.
everything or
You know,
not.
like,
All right, let's go on.
wait, so,
Okay, so we were going to have an auction today for natural gas, but it was canceled because you cannot have the auction the day after a federal holiday.
okay.
So that will be rescheduled to December.
Right,
And then
can we
this will
discuss
be-
that, because I looked at the
So
auction,
you have
which
to
is.
pull the.
Yeah,
pull
I
this
looked
auction.
at the auction because it's over there, and I looked very carefully. Here's the story with the auction, and this will be my take. With what was presented today by MX, we are having, in the best case, in 3 years, a savings of maybe $4,000, 4,000 estimate. The contract with MX also says that there is an overrun of 10% that they can provide to our cost. If they provide the overrun or 10%, we don't gain anything out of the entire contract. Moreover, if you lock the prices for 4 or 3 years, right now the price of gas is in free fall. There is additional movement in the industry to cap what is called today flaming. Flaming means that when you explore for gas, but not for gas, I'm sorry, when you explore for oil, there is additional gas that is basically found, but you don't know what to do with it, and you burn it. One of the big sources of carbon in our, but the Congress is looking to stop this flaming and capture those gases, which are gonna be even more contribute to the actually decreasing of the price of gas. The fact that we don't get more than almost 10%, because if you look at the price, we're getting 5.2% and 3.74%. And they can overrun the price by 10% by saying you didn't buy enough, or you bought more than you contracted. Both according to the, will basically allow for the company to give you a 10% overrun. I cannot see how this is beneficial to the town when you have neither guarantee that you have savings, nor you have any future capability of getting out of the contract if the prices will probably go lower.
So you have the opportunity not to approve the resolution when it's presented on
But I wanted to
subject-
discuss
but,
it.
Yeah, you will be able to discuss it, and then if you don't want it, they do the auction, and then if you don't want to proceed, then you don't.
Okay, the way it is written right now, with a savings of 3.74% for 24 months, which is 2 years, and 5.12% over 3 years, I personally would recommend the council not to approve.
Well, can we wait until it's before us and then decide?
Because that was in today's,
I understand, but it's been postponed till December, so
Yeah.
let's postpone this discussion until December.
all right, thank you.
We'll move to,
So you have to
finished?
pull that resolution,
Yes.
19387.
Moving it to
By the
December
bill.
10th?
And then the last thing is the reminder for the
League.
League of Municipalities next week, from the 19th to 21st.
Under correspondence, we have, actually have two. One is A, the Vantage Health System, and the other is D, Community Chest. I know every year we do contribute to Vantage Health, which is very important because they have a lot of clients in Tenafly. We get a bang for our buck. And there's not enough assistance for mental health issues, and Vantage is very well respected, but that'll be a decision you guys will make at budget time.
Wait, there's another correspondence on here that I put, and I'd like to task either Susan as BA or Omar to follow up on this. There is no working internet in here, and
It's not, no consistent
Next,
internet.
that's the next letter.
That's the next letter, if you give me a
Oh,
chance to
sorry.
get to it.
You said there was only 2 letters.
No, I said there were 2 letters of similar ilk,
Oh,
the Community
sorry.
Chest and Vantage. But
Sorry,
anyway,
Mayor.
on this, Omar, we desperately need to have a status report on what's going on. I mean, at one point, the Wi-Fi, correct me if I'm wrong, was fine. Now, all of a sudden, it's not, and the building hasn't changed. So we need to know why there's been a downgrade in the system, and how soon we can expect to have it back up the way it's supposed to be. And please don't wait until the next meeting to give us this report. Just send it out as soon as you get it.
Okay.
Please.
No problem.
Can I ask a question? Was it in the conference room that you're having this issue?
It's the conference room and this room,
That conference room has had issues before.
and this room,
But
we need
this
to have
room too.
functioning internet.
we shouldn't have
Has
any
this room
issues
had?
in
I
any
know,
way.
no, I know. So has this room had any issues before?
Yeah.
Before, I'm
Oh,
just trying,
before?
yeah.
No.
Because I know that when the
Before
auditors.
today, mean?
Yes. I'm
Oh,
talking about-
yes.
Okay, because I know when the auditors have worked in the conference room, they've always had
I'll be-
problems, that's why they end
Now,
up in
this
the.
all-
I'll be honest, I never have problems.
Where?
We laugh on this side, we
You
have
know,
problems all the time.
Never.
On that side, they have problems, this side you don't?
I never have problems when I'm sitting on, over there or here.
Oh, okay.
Mine just started,
I've-
Max will remember, because I kept asking
Yeah,
him
no,
to do
it's
stuff.
depending
But before
upon
that
the-
was
It
perfect.
depends on where you are in the building.
Yeah,
Omar, we need an explanation, because according to the response that Lauren got, that there's a budget consideration to fix this, and it's just not clear in my mind, when something wasn't broken, why is it now broken, and why does it cost us something additional to fix? So if we could get those answers as soon as possible, that would be helpful. All right?
And by the way, if there was a budget issue, they didn't bring it to our attention. We're now reaching out, and now they're saying, oh, but there's a budget issue.
Yeah, well, this is also something we'll discuss at joint use.
Can I just make one more comment? Because I know I skipped over it, but I do want to thank the community chest for all their good service that they do around Tenafly. I think they're
Can
a
we-
very good organization here, and I'd like to consider their letter, so that's
All
for
right, so-
further discussion.
Well, we're not there yet, but thank you. Right now, we're at C with the League of Municipalities. It's calling for a study of the Open Public Records Act. Frankly, I think we could jump on this and because,
I think you're right with that, yeah.
all right?
I definitely support a
Omar?
study
Yeah.
into this.
You'll put it
There's a
together
lot of
for us for the
loopholes
next meeting?
that need to be closed.
Now, next is the community chest. I don't believe in the past that we've supported, and we have to be very, very careful, because if we support one organization, no matter how worthy they may be, you're going to have requests from a whole bunch of others, and it really opens up a can of worms. We started supporting Vantage Health, and Shama, you were around then, I'm not sure if Mark was. I think we took that because we cut back on services that we had been offering, and Vantage kind of picked it up and ran with it. And they are rather unique. The community chest does excellent work, but once again, this will be a budget decision. I urge people to support it individually and personally, as I do, and I'm sure many of you already do. The last one, and I asked this resident to put this in an email to me. We've talked about this before, and I'm going to ask Omar if we could pass this along to the Environmental Commission. Bamboo is a problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not for the people that like it in their backyard, but for their neighbors.
It's very invasive.
And once it
Very invasive.
hits your backyard, it's almost impossible to get rid of. And a number of towns have banned it. Obviously, bamboo that's there already is grandfathered in. And I'm not sure I like an old bamboo any better than new bamboo, but we can't, if people already have it. But I think it's something to consider. It's really a nuisance. And it's very onerous if it it comes from your neighbor's yard into yours.
Yeah.
So I think we ought to look at, maybe consider some of the ordinances other towns have, and that'll be something for 2020.
Yes,
But,
and we said more than that. It's not only bamboo, we call it invasive species
Yes.
of plants that we have to cover, because there are other ones that are similar to that.
Well, I think, what would be nice, if we get a resolution against bamboo, we can always add things to it.
Yeah, call
But-
it invasive, yeah.
Omar
Yeah.
Florida has a good one.
But the
There's a
other,
few.
the other problem is that bamboo, once it gets near the street, actually begins to destroy the road.
It comes right up to the blacktop.
Yep. But we have to be careful with invasive species, because almost everything that
That
people
we-
are planting
for-
that's
for
labeled
deer.
as deer-resistant is invasive.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
So that's the vast majority of what's
Good
being
point.
planted in Tenafly right now.
Thank you.
Get rid of all of it, but.
Next letter is from Karen Noose, and I believe, I know I discussed this with Max. This is something we need to consider in our budget in 2020, finishing off Oresco Park. There is a strong need for a walkway between Washington Street, a diagonal walkway, and the center of where the monument is. It was in the original plans, which we cut back to save money. I think it's time that we finish off that park. The park has been a tremendous success, and one of the things we've done occasionally over town is offer various landscaping companies the opportunity to display their talents in return for signage. And I know there is such a deal in front of Oresco Park, facing the post office, And also, between the ingress and egress lanes of the post office parking lot, there's another one, also by CVS. There's a few places up on 9W. That's something you guys might want to consider next year, is expanding that program, taking it out of working with DPW, not against them, but I'm sure they're willing to allow professionals to come in and take off some of the load that they have. So that's Oresco Park, and we got one.
I like this last one from the food bank.
This one I didn't see.
Fairleigh Dickinson.
The only question I would have on this is, where do they want to place the bin? And once again, we ran into this problem over at the recycling center when we let one organization collect old clothes, et cetera. All of a sudden, we had 3 or 4 bins there, and some of them, the stuff that went into it didn't necessarily go to a nonprofit. So we have to be very careful, but this seems like a very worthwhile organization or project.
This is the food bank, and they are only asking for the first 2 weeks in December to have a food bin for residents to make donations.
So the question, Omar.
So it's only 2 weeks.
Can we get out to them immediately a question as to, or does this body have an idea of where they would allow this to be put?
Near
Somewhere around Borough Hall,
Borough
maybe?
Hall,
Near the library entrance, something like that.
yeah.
Well, there's another place that I thought of. As you enter the parking lot, on the left-hand side, just before you get to the parking lot, is a mailbox where the Lions Club collects eyeglasses. If we're only going to do it for two weeks, I would not be adverse to putting a bin there. It's very visible.
That's fine.
And, I wouldn't want it there permanently, but for 2 weeks.
2 weeks is all they're asking.
Omar?
Yes.
Ask them to coordinate with DPW as to where, or with Buildings and Grounds, Joe Rossi in particular. We don't want them just plopping it down anywhere. Let Joe give them a sense of where he wants it, so that it wouldn't be in anybody's way.
By the Lions Club.
Close to the line, but let Joe know what we're talking about, all right? So that, okay. Any questions about resolutions before we go for the good of the order?
Yes, there are.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I need to understand personally, the professional services for the county development grant application, it doesn't show what this is about. It says 3,800 for county community development grant application. What is it for?
So it's a $12,000 grant for senior center HVAC improvements in the borough, in the senior center.
Good. I talked, it's good. I went to talk this morning because I figured out something like that. I talked to Michelle. She didn't know absolutely anything about this application. So I talked to her about, that we want to do it. She's very happy to do that. But she mentioned that would be very good as she is the manager over there. If anything that is related to the senior center would be discussed with her before. If we can get a little bit more money, she would be willing, also need for, let's say, a little bit expansion of the entrance room so that she can create like a welcoming room for people that can come and sit over there and get like that. So if we can increase that to more than $12,000, that's something that she would be interested.
So that, there's certain criteria that goes into applying for a grant. So I think this would be a separate item, and that could be in capital. They want to extend the lobby room?
Yes.
Yeah, you'd have to put it in a capital plan.
But I'm saying, if we can get, this is a grant.
For HVAC improvement.
It is a grant for development. So, does it have to be specifically for HVAC only? Can we extend this one to be more than just HVAC? It's one of the areas that where we can use the development, community development grants because of the array, locations where it is. Can we use the
They are specific to HVAC. That is, I mean, I could look into it, but this grant is very specific to the improvement of air conditioning and heating.
Well,
That's what they do when they apply for the grant. I just worked on a whole summary for it, and
I
it's
understand
extremely
that.
specific.
They said, let's work on an HVAC. Can we work on more than HVAC?
You have to see if there's a grant available that encompasses HVAC and something else.
Yes, please, that was the,
Anything else on resolutions?
yes,
She has another one.
And I have one also.
Mark, you go ahead.
So,
okay. You go, Mark.
are you done, Max?
No, I'll do it later on. You go.
So, Resolution C 19-378, I'd just like to ask to move that to December 11th,
December 10th, you mean?
December 10th,
Which one is that?
C.
The
Which one is it?
The
Recreation Board?
378,
For
right.
the rec board?
Well,
Right.
I did that primarily, I want them to have a, why would you want to move it to December the 10th?
Because I'd just like an opportunity to speak with him.
Because I wanted to make sure they had a quorum. Which one is that?
Do they not
There's
have a
two,
quorum
there's
at
two
this
of
point?
them.
Right, the first one, the one that the appointment expires in January of 21.
21.
And the second one, D, expires December 31st of this year. So the first one, I'd just like to reschedule to December 11th.
Then he can't participate in the meeting next week.
That's all right. I mean,
It's okay.
Yeah, well,
So should
not
we
gonna
want to vote on
Right.
it?
Yeah.
Vote on it?
not gonna participate in
And
it.
quorum, and do they have a problem with quorum? I don't know.
All right.
Okay.
In
So
December.
what's happening? Is it coming out?
Right, we'll vote on it December 10th.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, what are you going to do between now and December 10th?
Have a conversation with him.
With what, which gentleman is this?
John Knocht.
In his capacity of incoming mayor, he should have a chance to basically talk to the new people.
Well, why didn't you talk to him prior to this? We had this on, I made the, 2 weeks ago, I suggested that I'd like to appoint him. Why didn't you talk to him in the last 2 weeks rather than wait and to pull this off
We
the
only got
agenda?
it yesterday, but what is the rush
Right, because-
to?
I explained that, first of all, I want to have a quorum because they're short 3 people. And second of all, the purpose of putting it on the agenda 2 weeks ago is to give you an opportunity to speak to these people.
Were they
It
short?
sounds to me like you're just going to not appoint him, which is, the council's prerogative, but when Trump did this to Obama, everybody
let's
thought it
open
was
it.
pretty ridiculous.
Mayor, can you tell us a little bit about why you've chosen this person?
Yeah, he was first of all, he's on the Teen Center board now. I spoke with Mark about him, he's a contributor, he's a good guy, he's got young children.
Does he coach softball?
I believe he did, he has a daughter. And Jamie, actually, I got his name from Jamie and Carol. They're not overwhelmed by people that are involved that want to participate. There's always people that want to participate, but they're not involved. This guy seems to be involved. I had a very brief conversation with him to make sure that he was willing to do both. Obviously, the youth center position is not, a very time-consuming position.
Can I just say, I actually work with this gentleman. I can't say enough nice things about him as somebody who really is good with the kids, has a good sense of our community, is very fair play oriented. He coaches the softball team above mine, so I look to him for guidance on to how I coach mine. I actually would be very happy to see him sit on our rec board. I think he'd be a breath of fresh air. He also comes at it with perspective as someone who has a daughter in sports, and I personally like that, having 2 children, girls in sports. And he's a solid candidate, and Mayor,
Well, keep in mind, Mark,
I would have put
that
my vote.
you will have 2 appointments for the rec board. The second one, and plus, there's another person that's going to step down at the end of the year. So you will have 2 appointments to make to the board.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting he not get appointed, I'm only suggesting we delay it to
I
December 10th.
think that Mark
That's all.
is entitled, even
That's
though
all.
you,
Okay.
with all
That's
due
all.
respect,
Well, you can
he's
vote,
entitled.
we'll vote on it. That's
Yeah.
all.
That's all.
He's
It's just a
entitled, yeah.
delay for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, so being on the youth committee, he's one of the only people that attends regularly, and regularly means every 2 months, which is, in my mind, ridiculous for for a committee, but, you know, he does attend, and he's been a good person, I think.
Well,
But I agree that Mark should have an opportunity to.
But once again, Mark had an opportunity for 2 weeks
we
to
only-
do this.
well, I mean,
It sounds to me like you just don't want to appoint
No,
him.
no, no,
That's all.
I only received this yesterday. I don't know if anybody else had prior knowledge.
No,
Yeah, we
last
discussed
week,
this.
2 weeks ago, when we had a meeting, this was on the agenda, and that's why it's a resolution today, because you just don't put things on a resolution.
So why don't we just
Both
vote on it
names
and be
were
done with it?
submitted 2 weeks ago.
No, I think you should have enough.
And by delaying it, you're basically saying he can't participate this year. So be it, if that's what the vote goes.
Okay.
Good.
All right, so now I have another issue.
So wait, is that being removed from consent
We'll
agenda?
vote
or
it separate. Yep.
Move it to December.
No, we're going to
Oh.
vote on it separately.
That's fine.
All right, so now, the other one is stormwater. Okay, I see over here is basically a request.
Where are you, Max? I'm sorry, can you just hold on a second so I can,
There's a
what page in the
resolution.
resolution?
I have the same thing.
I just want
Yes.
to get to it so I can.
It's
put-
J.
You had the
Jay.
answer already.
Sorry?
You didn't have the same thing that I posed.
No, I did, I need to understand if it's possible. What's the necessity of doing that work? And it's like in the last moment, what do we do? What's gonna be the result of this, having a inspection? What basically are we getting out of this? What's the cost for this inspection, and what are we getting out of it?
They inspect the stormwater outfalls to make sure that the connections are all intact.
Well, first of all, is this required?
That's what the,
We've been
is it a
doing
yearly?
stormwater outfalls since
It's
I've been
required- I
here.
believe it's
Yeah,
required by the county.
It is required.
If that's what it is, that's what I need to understand. So it's a requirement by the county to inspect it, to assure.
Well, if you read the last part of the resolution where it says, within the borough's jurisdiction as required per the borough's Tier A stormwater general permit. So the permit that we get for the stormwater requires us to do these inspections.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Anything, Lauren, you had something?
No, I got answered.
Okay, so we're going to remove C and vote on it separately. For the good of the order,
Yeah.
this is I bring it up only because I told the resident that I would bring it up.
Sorry, one
just
more
have to
thing.
add to
I just had a question, not on the bill list
Yeah.
for CSX,
The leases?
the leases. Nothing about payment of the leases, but I noticed that there are signs along the parking areas which show exclusivity for the
Demarest Plaza.
for the Lubavitch, for all the individual stores, the restaurants.
These,
Is that part of the lease agreement?
not with CSX, but these are zoning agreements that we've had with property owners that go back a long, long time.
And so nobody else is allowed, the public is not allowed?
Those are direct leases with CSX, the private parties have.
So Demarest Plaza has their own lease? I stand corrected.
Right, why
So
are we
the
paying?
leases that we're paying for.
We're not paying for that.
Are the commuter lots and the employee
No,
lots.
but for example, Axia has a certain number of spaces, so
No.
they pay for those spaces.
No, actually, it's-
CSX?
Oh, no, it's the other one. I mean, there's, so the Lubavitch.
diner.
Does the
Lubavitch
Lubavitch
does,
pay?
yes.
Lubavitch has
And
their
and
own.
all of those along there,
Lubavitch-
they have, so there's a Korean restaurant. They have a sign
No,
that says
Lubavitch
it's
has-
exclusive to they have exclusive
oh.
spots.
Though Lubavitch has their own lease with CSX, that's not one of the leases we're paying.
Okay.
Lots.
The Korean restaurant has an arrangement with Latz. Latz has the lease for those properties,
Okay.
Okay.
those leases.
With CSX.
The leases we're paying for are the lots that we own. or
Okay,
that
got
we
it.
regulate.
Okay,
All
okay,
right.
just wanted to make sure.
Because I had the same question.
Yeah,
to
and now I
Susan.
don't have to answer that.
You don't have to answer now. Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, so when leaf pickup on Franklin Street, this gentleman complained immediately to the DPW. He had a vehicle, I guess it was a 2018 Nissan that was parked on Franklin Street when our leaf collecting truck came by. And according to this gentleman, they covered his car with debris, and it required a detailing job which cost $160. When, actually, Bob Colvert called me to warn me that this guy was going to call the mayor, and he did. He claimed that, the truck showed the employees were callous and didn't show any consideration or respect for him and his car. He said he actually got covered with it too. We've never had a complaint like this before. I said to him, well, why didn't you wash the car? A car wash is $10, and he said that was not sufficient to get the debris off his car. The normal response to something like that is turn it into your insurance company.
Any pictures, any documentation?
Yeah, he does have some pictures, but the pictures really don't show a car with dirt on it.
And did Bob follow up with the employees who were working the vehicle that day?
Bob did, and Bob did not suggest that we make this payment. So if you want further information.
Bob suggested we do not make the payment?
Yeah, he was not in favor of this. But if you want Bob to come in at the next meeting and discuss it, we can have him come in and discuss it. But he's
He
going
should
to.
be here tonight to discuss.
Well, he's not, unfortunately, he had to be, I think, in another town. If you guys want
Have
to.
him come in and discuss it. Yeah, bring him.
And he also left me a note.
Why don't you invite the resident in too?
Well, actually, he's not a resident. He's a contractor who was working at the time on a property on Franklin Street. So if you want, he can supply us with pictures. For
That would
whatever.
be, let's see the pictures first. I think you're right.
Okay. Max, you had 2020 budget preparation?
All right.
And I have some for good of the order.
Yeah,
Well,
and I
hold
have
on,
a few
yeah.
other things.
Yeah, okay.
On this for the good of the order. The budget that we're starting, I would suggest that we write a note to all the heads of the department to prepare the budget not based on what they had last year, but based on what they need. The fact that they had a $10,000 consultant last year does not mean that they need another $10,000 this year. And they prepare a bottoms-up budget rather than a budget that is exactly like it was last year, plus the increase in the cost for the personnel cost. And any expense they have, they will need to justify to you and Lizette. And it's not based on the fact that we did the same thing last year. It's based on necessity.
What has the BA told the departments at this point? Do we know?
Probably the same thing.
Well, we sent out a budget packet, and we asked them to, fill out the budget sheets. I printed them out from Edmunds, and they have to put in their budget, and then they have to justify in the notes section what makes up those numbers.
I would mean specifically telling them not to prepare it based on the last year numbers, but on existing requirements, updating and justifying any expenses. I would suggest that we do something like that.
So you have to be very careful with what you're stating, because if you make this budget way too tight and you don't prepare for unforeseen circumstances, or you will not be regenerating any surplus, and that's what you use in the following year. You
Yes.
anticipate
So-
surplus from the 2-year prior.
I
It's a 2-year budget
understand
cycle,
that
so-
very well.
Max, you've been through the budget process
So
every
it's-
year as a
Yeah.
council person.
Yes.
And what you're saying is not original, it's not new. Everybody does this, and each year, it seems to me that our administrator and our CFO are getting stronger and stronger about how to prepare a budget. But, be honest, when you start to prepare a budget for a department, if you don't base it on last year, then
Historical data.
last year I used $1,000 worth of paper clips. I know I can cut it down, so you cut it down to 900, but you gotta start somewhere. And if you're not starting,
I'm not
how are you
saying-
gonna tell what you're gonna use if you don't look at
I'm not
last year?
saying that, and this is a the wrong example that you give. Those are consumable that you have. Besides the consumable, you have expenses that are either necessary or not. And those specific expenses will be needed, in my mind, to be justified. And the fact that you had it last year, specifically outside work, outside consultants, purchasing of different things, and those things do not have to be based on what you had done last year.
Well, no, you're referring to one-time charges, and because there was a one-time expense last year, does not justify having it in the budget this year. We all appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I know, I've been witness to the last couple of years where Susan and Lisette have been very careful about making sure department heads justify every expense, whether it's repetitious or
We
just
cut.
1 year.
We cut.
I'm
We
sorry.
cut. I forget how much we cut last year, but thousands. We cut
I know you
thousands.
did. I know you did.
So just to answer your question about regenerating surplus, you need and you regenerate surplus specifically in order to reduce additional need for revenue in the next year
And 2 years later,
and 2 years later.
right.
I think that you should have specific expenses assigned to you and Lizette, which will regenerate the surplus. So you do not have the department themselves regenerate the surplus. And these discretionary expenses can, in due time, be then distributed to the specific departments that you see that need them. This way, you will not have to move expenses from different departments to different departments, but you'll have it under your control. And I'm not saying not to have that. What I'm saying is they should be under your control directly, not under each one of the departments, and you're gonna have to move from one to another. And you understand that as good as well.
I understand, but how am I gonna justify those expenses if I don't know where they're gonna go?
Okay, that we can work on justification if that's the issue. The issue is do a very good expense for each department, create the budget that you need, and then you have much more flexibility than if you have those expenses distributed through the tens of departments, and then you still have to move them around.
Because once something is budgeted, if people feel that they have to use it, whereas if you
I'm
have-
changing that. I have spoke to each department head and I have told
No,
them,
it's one thing to
including
tell them, it's
the-
another thing
One
to
thing
take
is
an
to-
action.
no,
And to write
but
it.
you have to understand that we are also telling them they can't have, at this point, it's what I would call a hard close, which means that anything that's been encumbered for this year that I don't believe they're gonna use, they have to unencumber it. Anything that is a contract can remain encumbered, because I know they're gonna spend it. Any liability that needs to be on the books at the end of the year needs to be encumbered. I've told them that, they cannot spend everything in their budget. We're scrutinizing every single PO that comes through. We question many of the items that come through.
And-
We don't pay everything. Sometimes
we-
we send it back and say, what is this? So I think that we've gotten it to a point, and I have to commend my staff, because I think that I have a really excellent staff that's really scrutinizing and bringing to my attention certain items. And each department head knows, just because you have this money there does not mean at the end of the year you are gonna spend it, because we're not allowing that.
Yeah, and that's very, very good. I think that as we discuss about other expenses, even though you presented to everybody the requirements for expenses, there are departments that do not follow the actual rules. And we discussed about
Oh,
these
yeah.
expenses, yeah?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I think a memo from you to the department heads regarding the budget would be very welcome to make sure that they understand how serious you're doing this. And that was all my.
Anything else for the good of the order?
Yes, I have some. You want, go ahead, you go. I'd like to look into a stipend position for a medical advisor on the ambulance corps. A physician has to hold this position. It's already in our ordinances. I'd like to fill it.
Even though they don't want it?
Well, it's in our ordinances, and it's best practices according to the state for other ambulance corps, and so I'm looking at best practices.
But
And
once
it's a-
again, I'm saying, even though they don't want it, you want to pursue it?
Mayor, I don't think that it's been presented at all to TVAC as a whole, and I would happily present it to them as a whole, so I'm not sure how you could say that. That's one.
Well, because
And
they've
two,
told me.
who is they, and in what
The
conversation have
director,
you
the
had this?
captain, I
We
don't
don't
speak.
have a director, a medical director that's a physician at the moment.
What's the purpose of this position?
Health and safety of our residents.
It's always good to have a manager that understands the
This is
medical
a licensed
necessities.
doctor.
Besides somebody
Well,
that.
once again, you just talk about tightening up the budget, and you're
Yeah.
creating a new position, which I think you'll find the majority of the people on the TVAC don't feel it's necessary. That's your prerogative, but, you can't have it both ways. You can't go around creating
Mayor,
new
that's a
positions,
false, that's
and
a
at the
false
same
comparison.
time.
That's a false comparison. This isn't anything to do with Cheryl. Cheryl stays. This is a completely separate and distinct position that is a doctor consultant, advisor, and that is how it is written in our ordinance. So I think that you are making a false dichotomy here. It doesn't have to be a budget versus health and safety. And by the way, health and safety should be the utmost importance for our borough.
Absolutely, and that's why we have.
I'm surprised at your reaction.
Because we have an
I-
excellent record to this point, where there does
We don't
not-
know, actually,
That has
because
nothing
we
to do
still
with the
haven't
record or not.
gotten the records
It
that
doesn't
we've been
appear to be a
asking
need
for.
this. Mark, you had your hand up?
Yeah, perhaps Dan and Lauren meet with Cheryl and have a conversation over the details and take it from there and see where it goes.
Yeah,
Why don't
That's
you
what I
jo-
would
Why don't
recommend.
you join the conversation?
Excuse me?
Why don't you join the conversation? That would be good as an incoming mayor.
Sure, I'm happy to join the con. All I'm saying is have the conversation and we could all flush it out.
And Mark, this should be something that's above the level of, it's something that we have to understand. Do we have the medical information and the medical advice that we need? And if we don't have that, indifferent of how the members of the organization that they feel that they're gonna get an additional oversight, well, they can do without the oversight. This is something that we have to decide. Do we need to have professional medical oversight of the medical delivery of systems that we have in-house? That's something that you have to
I mean,
understand.
the state
It's not
recommends
That's
a-
this.
irrelevant.
This is a state recommended position. This isn't like something I'm pulling out of the air.
Right, all I'm saying is, all I'm suggesting is, the first conversation happened between yourself, Dan, Cheryl, myself, and see where we go from there, right?
And you should include the captain as well.
And the captain. So we have a conversation, so everyone's on the same page, and,
At least they understand what we
right,
need.
perhaps everyone will be very happy with the outcome.
Well, I would tell you that
I
I've
don't
had a
understand why
conversation.
anyone would oppose such a
I've had a
position.
conversation with two of them, and they're not happy with it at all, but
Yeah, we
by
understand.
all
That's
means,
your
go
conversation.
ahead and do it, but,
Yeah, it's understandable
To have
because
any
nobody wants a
advisor?
boss.
I
well, now
support-
you're hiring somebody to be their boss? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
no.
Well, that's
This
what you
is not
just
a-
said. Nobody
That's
wants a
what they-
boss.
This is not a boss, this is an advisor
Yeah.
to the TVAC.
Okay.
Advisor to, if they need an assistant, they go call up this person and say, we need something, not the other way around.
I-
I don't know if you folks have ever heard the expression, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it ain't broke.
Well, hold on. I'd like to say that I support Lauren's suggestion. But the other thing is, we really don't know if it ain't broke, or if it is broke. We've asked for data, and we still haven't received it. So I think we need to have that data before we know whether something's broke or not broke. I'm not suggesting that it is, but I think we need that data before we
What
can
data are
make
you
a...
looking for now?
We've had in several meetings brought up the question about, timing, how fast the TVAC is getting to an emergency, and I think we need to have.
How many times they don't get, and stuff like
Exactly,
that.
and how often we have to go to other communities. I think it's very important to have this, this information before we can say that something is a success or not a
It's going to be
success.
very hard to compare to other communities because we have one of the.
We're not
best
talking about
programs.
comparing to other communities, we're talking about having the information for
You know,
our.
have this program
You've
just
got
so
an
you know.
organization of volunteers that do
Absolutely, and
phenomenal
we
work.
treasure,
No one
we
is saying that.
We're
treasure
going to
that.
beat them to death.
Absolutely, we treasure that they volunteer, and we would love for them to continue to volunteer. But we do also have a responsibility to the residents in knowing whether they're being serviced, with the kind of efficiency that we'd
What
like
gives
them
you
to
the
be.
sense that it's not happening?
Well, do we have the
Mayor,
records?
you know what?
If we
Listen,
have the
when-
records, we can then.
When you have a organization that serves the community for years without a complaint, other than one that's
Mayor,
totally.
you're starting a fight that's unnecessary at this point in time. We'll
No,
have
I'm
the
not starting a
conversation
fight. I'm
directly,
just
as Mark
registering my
suggested.
concern about an idea that I think is really.
That is your opinion,
And that's what I'm saying, it's my opinion,
okay?
okay?
This is a state licensed doctor.
Max, you're not even gonna be here next year.
I can work up the program either way. I'm a citizen of the town, I can do that.
Anything else on, for the good of the order?
I'm sorry, hold on.
Yeah,
I just want to know,
yes.
what does the medical advisor do, and how
They-
many hours would they be, how would it work?
It's a volunteer position.
It's a volunteer position, it's an advisory position only. It doesn't run the day-to-day, that's Cheryl. It doesn't run the cruise, that's Cheryl.
It's
but they will-
voluntary, so there's no stipend.
We can decide.
Well, if there's a
can
stipend,
decide.
it's not volunteer.
This is a professional MD.
Is there do you
But
have
what
the
do they
ordinance
do?
information, the number?
What?
Or-
Do I have the?
Do you have the ordinance information?
Yeah, the ordinance is, it's already in our ordinance, by the way.
Right.
It's 2-46.6. It's
Okay.
already in there. We don't even need to codify it, it's already codified in there as something our borough has already created.
I mean,
It's in there already.
What does the person do? Like, how would it work?
Well, this is what it said. It said the medical, I'll read you the ordinance.
Yeah.
The medical advisory, it's called membership, because they're talking about classes of membership, shall consist of local physicians who have agreed to serve in an advisory capacity to the corps, to the ambulance corps, and who shall be appointed by the active membership on a year-to-year basis.
So it's
That is the
that person is
description
appointed by the
in the
membership
ordinance.
of the TVAC.
Correct. So it's ordinance number 92-14, section 5, and then ordinance number 9-16, section 2, and it's in our code as 2-46.6.
So this would not be an appointment made by the council, it would be made by the membership
No.
of TVAC.
First number of the ordinance.
Yeah, 92, that's ordinance, no, ordinance number.
Yeah, 1992.
So since 1992, this has been on our books.
All right, I have another issue on for the good of the order. Jeff and I met with the DPW, a part of our continuous meeting with the DPW.
I was there also, was I not?
Yes, and you were
Thank
there
you.
too. And one thing that I would like to bring to the attention of the council, remember we have put together a $70,000 fund to rebuild lights and so. And one of the proposals of the DPW director was that we exchange all the lights that we have, those tulip lights, with LED lights, and there would have been about $45,000. And there will have been no money left for the, sorry, I'm gonna drink some water. For lighting up the trees over there. One of the lights in town has been destroyed, so they they replace it with one of these LED lights. I went to look at the lights, and there was practically no difference between the new light and the old light. So we decided we're not gonna replace all the lights with these new LED lights, since it doesn't improve anything. Also, talking to the Englewood DPW, they told me that they light up their trees and everything with strings of LEDs that they purchase on an industrial basis, and the DPW put them over there, so it practically is very little cost. So we can probably build 10, 15, 20 trees now with a minimal amount of money, which would have been around $3,000-4,000. And before, the DPW was
Only took a
talking
year.
about $2,000 per tree. The reason I'm bringing this up, because now it's gonna cost us probably $3,000-4,000 to light up all the trees, and we don't have to replace the tulips, is because you should, from now on, carefully check all these expenses to make sure that the town needs them, and best efficient terms and ways of doing that are really taking place, not just allow advice from other people and because it's the town's money.
So how do we get this?
After the leaves collection is done, the DPW is gonna purchase those LED strings from our industrial warehouse.
I would suggest that they purchase
You're making me
one
so
for
happy.
one tree and
Yeah.
let.
So
let
happy.
you-
And they put it up, and
Let you
then we'll
folks
see.
look at it before you go putting
So
it
where are
in for
they
every tree.
purchasing this from?
From our
Any
industrial.
lighting is
Well, I mean,
better
what
than no
funding?
lighting.
Oh, we
Downtown,
have $70,000 they put in our funding for lighting up the, and replacing lights on,
we used a lot of that for the electrical work.
Yeah, they did electrical work, I'd have to see
Yeah.
what was left.
no, it's very little was
But is
under
this considered,
14,000.
what was the extent of the electrical work?
So let me see if I get this correctly.
Yeah,
After spending 10 minutes explaining to the CFO how department heads have got to be very careful about how they spend their money, regardless of how they spent it last year, they got to start from scratch. You're suggesting that on the basis of a conversation you had with somebody from the DPW of Englewood, that we go out and spend money on lighting the trees?
We had a
Well, out
goal
of
to light the
funds that we
trees.
have,
Well, but you're talking about spending money that wasn't spent. Because it wasn't spent, we can spend it.
No.
But nobody else.
We have a
nobody-
line item to
No,
get
no,
this
you
work
have
done.
to-
Yeah, but we
I-
haven't, nobody has seen the lights we're talking about
I have
buying.
to talk about this. Is this, I want to differentiate what we were doing to what we're going to do.
Yeah.
The
It's
goal
very
was to
important
get the
in-
lights.
In the capital, when we write a bond ordinance, it is for a specific purpose, and that
Yeah.
you have to use the bond ordinance for the intended purpose.
Yeah.
I think we
So I wanna
described it
know if
as
this
downtown
differ-
lighting. We
Exactly.
described it very,
differentiates
we described it from what I remember, and please
Yeah,
check,
downtown
as
lighting.
downtown lighting, and then we did electrical work to make the electrical work throughout the
Right.
downtown fixed.
Exactly.
And now we had money, we didn't use the entire budget, and now what Max is saying is he's trying to use the remainder of the line item budget that was intended for this purpose,
Right.
to light up our downtown in the dark winter nights.
Exactly.
As
For
long
this
as
purpose.
it's
But the
same-
electrical work that was done for the poles.
Yeah,
So that the
exactly.
lights
No,
on the
and the
poles.
plugs.
And the
And
plug and
plugs.
everything.
Right, but
There.
the plug at each pole, you're not talking about the poles now, you're talking about trees.
Yeah.
There are not electrical
No,
outlets
they fixed
underneath
them.
each tree.
They are. yeah,
There
they-
are now.
There are now.
Only if the tree is right next to a pole. But most of the trees are not next to
I don't
poles.
understand this argument, Peter.
I'm just saying
so
that
is-
it's not as easy as you think. You're gonna, if you wanna put lights in a tree, you have to have a source of electricity.
We will do what we
We'll
can.
do it.
We will do what we can, and then
The
we'll
idea
see what
is
happens
that
next year.
In the 70,000 that we have,
It
we're
was
gonna still
60.
have like $40,000 left, which we're gonna use
I have
now
to
for
check.
repairing the lights as they come up,
I think it was
as they
called townwide
burn, as they
lighting.
do the downtown, and have this probably for a few years. That's what the whole point is. But the point is that pay attention to what you spend the money for, because you can save a lot of money.
So when we spend from capital projects, when the project is complete,
Yeah.
then we cancel the project, and the money goes into our fund balance, or you could reappropriate the
Yeah,
funds.
that's right. But this is still gonna be downtown lightning, because we do that for downtown lightning.
Okay.
I still have another for the good of the order,
I do too.
and he does.
Mr. Chair.
One, I want to reschedule the Suez meeting. So very simply, I'd like to get another date on the calendar. Enough said. We still need answers on our lead in our, possible lead in our town, in our public areas, in our borough hall, in our fields, and our water fountains. So please reschedule a date for Suez. They want closed session, whatever it is. In the meantime, see if they can give us any paperwork on any testing or lead results they have. And Vinu went to the Suez symposium again, and he said you could do it by block and street? How is it?
Well, you can individually call them for,
A test.
for the test.
So they have the testing results?
And then, so for example, mine, they knew that my home had a lead gooseneck or whatever, and so there was lead coming in. And so they came in, we tested the water coming in, and they found that it was 2 parts per million or billion or whatever it's supposed to be, which is higher than 0, but it's less than the 15, which
Okay.
is supposed to be the safe level. Or, below 15. But they recommend 0 as, you should have 0 lead. But then they also said, going to the symposium, that, the lead leading up to the house could be completely taken out, and that's fine. But then you have a lot of lead inside the house, including things like appliances that until 2013, appliances coming from China, for example, were allowed to have lead in certain joints and things like that. So there is still, inside the house there will possibly be, depending on what your appliances are or what your connections are or whatever, that there may still be lead after whatever is up to the house.
So I want to,
Just wanted to ask you something. They'll only give the owner.
They'll give the owner, right.
By lot and block, right?
Right.
But to the owner, not to.
Correct.
so I want our public areas. We as the town, I don't mean
Yes.
me, I mean, we as the community own the public spaces.
Yes.
I want to know on our public spaces what the lead levels are.
So we should have.
So we should have somebody from our borough
Right.
be contacting them with
Correct.
block and lots of our public spaces, including Borough Hall.
Vanu, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the process is that individual homeowners, and I would assume the borough, have to go out at their own expense and have their water tested.
It's-
And if the water comes back with a certain amount of lead in it, like yours did, then they will come out and they will test. But the first step is,
No, so
No?
the first step is you can reach out to Suez. Suez will test your water. They'll do what seems like just not a very good approach.
Yeah, if you ask them, give them your block and lot.
Right.
I think you just give them the
Playgrounds.
address.
You just give them your address.
Address.
You can actually call them and they will tell you whether you have a lead
Right,
connection
they'll
or
say-
a non-lead
Right.
connection. But then they will send a Suez, somebody
if you have a
coming.
lead, if you have a lead
If
connection,
you have the lead connection,
Right.
they will test, and then they will see, and then if you're not satisfied with the results of their testing, you can hire your own contract, in contract with somebody personally,
But if they have answers, let's get them.
right?
If
And-
they're changing, if their lead pipe from
Right.
their, whatever they call the main.
So all the main lines are apparently, they're not lead, there's no lead in the main
Main,
lines
right.
in anywhere in Tenafly. That's what they said.
It's the spar from.
But they
But
pulled up
it's-
piping, so.
But it's from the main line to the house, which, I
if
forget
it's
the
an
name.
older house, it's gonna-
If it's an older house or,
Bathroom.
and a lot of older houses don't have it either because they've had work done, and whenever they needed to, they would change that.
Okay.
So, Bill, do we know any contacts over at Suez to set up a
Liz
meeting?
Ed has one.
No, I thought they were offering to have,
They have a telephone number that you can,
yeah, I saw that go around.
yeah.
The mayor has a contact.
Yeah, but they said they were gonna come once they resolved, I'm trying to remember what they had to resolve first.
All of the lead issues in New Jersey.
With the state, with the BCUA, they were looking to offer a program where they would come in and replace pipes that are our homeowner's responsibility for, I think, $1,000, where the job would normally cost 3 or 4 times that. And they wanted to get permission from the BCUA to institute that program.
Yeah.
And the BCUA was hesitant to do that because what it meant was all of us were subsidizing jobs for individual homeowners.
I don't
So
have to wait for that, though.
I'm saying that was when they said as soon as that was resolved, they were gonna come here. It won't hurt, I'll reach out to them tomorrow and ask them, but I know what the answer's gonna be.
Well, tell them we want to know our public spaces. We're not talking about anything else. we don't need to worry about homeowners getting reimbursed right
So are
now.
you reaching out to schedule a meeting, or you're reaching out just to
Well,
find out information?
I'm going to reach out and
Yeah.
ask them to come in and speak to us, but
Okay.
I don't believe they will.
All right.
Jeff's
And I'll send an email out letting you know what the response was.
Jeff, you have some.
All right. This is, normally I would include this in the report for the Historic Preservation Commission, but it's an issue that was raised that I think really is better for the good of the order. Since we were talking about lighting, lighting at the railroad station is an issue, and this is one of the highlights of our town. Right now, there's string lighting on the roof. It's only partially working. We know that we had in the lease with Cafe Angelique asked for some sort of an escrow amount. But what we've done is tried to leverage that, doubling it by making it part of a matching grant. So that money has not been, the matching grant has not yet been approved, so no money is really there right now for work. The HPC has been trying to bring in focused lighting because the owner of Cafe Angelique wants certain type of lighting, some uplighting, some different lighting techniques to make it more of a showpiece. And what's happened is that the HPC, while they approve changes to historic properties or making sure that they're in keeping with the historic nature, they've become mired in having to try and work with arranging for this repair, looking for funding for the repair, which is really not what they should be doing. And so they're in a quandary. Their question of really how to make this happen so a central gym in the town doesn't look half taken care of. They're concerned. We need to find a way to make this happen. And it can wait till the budget. That's just another year of this. And they could fix the string lighting. That would be the lowest cost option, but their feeling is string lighting is not good for a historic building with a slate roof. It actually can ruin the roof, causing more costly damage, and it's not a historic feature, not appropriate to the building and the time period. So what they're really looking for is how to get in this particular company or any company that can make this lighting work happen. And I'm looking to you, Susan, for a little bit of input. I know that there's been some discussion on it, but they're getting frustrated, and so am I, that I don't see an end game to
Two
this.
questions, Jeff. One is the tenant on the same wavelength as the HPC? Have they agreed on a specific lighting plan that?
This
that-
is to some degree, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut off, but this is to some degree the lighting plan that the tenant would like to see. He wants the uplighting.
Now, when-
So they have been talking.
Now, when they, you said, you used the term escrow, maybe Susan, you can answer this. I was under the impression that when they signed the lease, they were supposed to give us $50,000.
They did, but there's a grant that they did a matching grant, so we can't use that 50 because it's for
It's encumbered.
specific things, like electrical and all those other things. But I have a question, do you know how much this is going to be?
I don't, because they're not sure how to reach out to this company
We
to.
talked to them though, and we
bring
told
in-
them to get quotes.
Right, and so you have, I think this is the problem that we're running into, is we have a bunch of people who are volunteering their time, volunteering their efforts, and now they're doing the job of trying to get quotes and bring in.
Well, the thing is that there was two ordinances, or one or two ordinances years ago, they were from like 1996. And I had to cancel them because we weren't using the money, and it was really specific for the railroad. So there was about $11,000 that I put into our fund balance, and I used $3,000 to repair the roof. So I would say, like, in all fairness, there's probably $8,000 sitting in the fund balance that could be used, and that was my intent for that, since it came from those ordinances. But I don't know how much, I've asked them to
Right.
provide some kind of a quote, since they brought it up, and
Well, I think
about
that-
how much it would cost, because we could, in essence, just take that little bit and use it for that.
Well, I think they were running into initial problems of whether this particular lighting company was authorized or not by
Chip, Peter,
towns to do this.
why don't we ask the borough administrator to simply contact the company and get some sort of estimate and have a sense of what we're talking about here,
Do they have?
Right.
rather than,
Well, does she have the ability to ask for what estimate for what?
Yeah, I have to know
That's the
exactly.
problem.
so, well, back to the question about, Jeff, the mayor asked if everyone's on the same page. If everyone's on the same page, they must be on the same page about a particular plan. Or is it just the lights?
I think it's a conceptual plan.
So perhaps
They
we
need
ask
the
the
company to come in to say.
ask the administrator to contact the company to see what the process is, and will they come in and give an estimate?
Right.
And then we go from there.
What I would normally do in a situation like this, and I could do it because he's got 6 weeks left, I would ask to meet with Karen Noose, Isaac, and you,
Okay,
and try and get the specifics together so that somebody can reach out to this company and find out, get a price. And if it's within $8,000, we can just move it right along. So-
Can I make a request? If you are going to have that meeting, can you please also ask the owner of Angelique what he's doing with his other property that's half painted?
Well, I ask him all the time.
Because at this point, it should go under the vacant property ordinance.
Okay.
It is unfinished, and residents ask me all the time, can they just finish painting?
Yeah, I,
So-
once again, there isn't, whenever I see him, that's it, the last question I ask him is what's going on, and I've been getting the same answer for 2 years.
Okay.
But once again, that's where that ordinance will come in handy, at least,
It should already, hopefully that, not hopefully, but that property should rightfully be under it already.
okay.
Omar, can you check on that?
Anything else for the good of the order before we change the name of that subsection? Okay, old business,
Oh, that's old.
skateboard ordinance.
Skateboard.
I said that I'm keeping this on here
But
until it
I
moves.
will say that, on the pond ordinance though, I would skip right over the skateboard ordinance. But, no, on the pond ordinance though, Bob had been away, Bob Burns had been away on vacation. But he came back and he called me today, I had left a message for him, and he agreed with me on that we should just keep it at $6. He said because, and by the way, he used the same exact logic that I did. He said, we don't have a problem, most people we don't have a problem with, it's gone in, a couple weeks, usually not more than 6 weeks. So he said, we don't need to have a 30-day or a 90-day. He said, just have him have the right for the first one, if it has to be in the front yard, $6.
Okay, I'd like to propose that we don't have it, as a blanket 6 months, but based on the need, so people would apply up to 6 months, say how long they need it to be there. Because you want to put
So that
in
you could
people's
say,
minds.
granted up to 6 months.
Granted up to 6 months, but people should include in the application how long, because you don't want to then get into a situation where somebody says, oh, I've got 6 months to clear this out. Whatever the cost is, that's up to them, but I mean, somebody may be like, yeah, all right, I've got 6 months to clear it out. You want them to think about getting rid of it as soon as they can. Because in the front yard, in the side yard, it becomes a blight. Whereas if it's in the backyard, nobody cares if it's in the backyard. That's why the 6 months is fine in the backyard. In the front yard and the side yard, it becomes a blight to the community, and that's the other side of what we were trying to have to do with this
I
ordinance.
understand, but you have to pay for that pod.
I know,
So
but
people are going to have the incentive to not keep
yeah,
it
but
longer than they need
you
it.
never know
So
what people's intentions are. They may say, all right, well, what the heck, I want to pay for 6 months. It's this much, and they may have tons of money. Put it in the front yard for 6 months. I mean, we don't know what people's reasons for doing it and why they would want to spend the money. But we're trying to make sure that they don't think about want
So I
to
think
keep
we
it.
agree, up to 6 months, rather than 6 months.
No, I'm
right?
saying,
No, but how do you, but if the person knows that he can have up to 6 months, why, and they want to keep it longer, why wouldn't they just say, I need 6 months?
but that's the purpose behind having the shorter term with a renewal.
Oh, shorter term with a renewal.
So the 1 month or the 2 months, whatever we want to say, but to make it, a shorter term so that, there's an urgency, that the town recognizes there's an urgency, and we want to impress on them that we don't want you to keep it in the front yard.
Okay, well, I thought you wanted me to ask Bob what he
Well,
wanted.
that's how it came out at the end of the last meeting because of, what the directions were, but there were two sides to
So then,
this.
hold it. So then it'll be
How about,
just, not 30 days, that's too short.
okay, so 2 months,
It should be at least 60 days.
Right.
And I would say 90 days would be better, but, because if you think about people buying or selling a house, they're, well.
okay.
So at
We
least
can,
six-
we
at
can,
least
we
60
can talk
days.
about
60
this,
days is reasonable. 6
tomorrow.
months is a
I mean,
long
So,
time.
so 60 days, 60 days.
60 days with a renewal, again, we
Is it
can,
gonna be across the board for all, or just if it's in the front or side yard?
front or side yard. If it's in the backyard, it doesn't, we
Doesn't
don't
matter.
care, yeah. 6 months is fine.
So, and the renewal application goes to Bob?
Correct. Yeah. Or no, so, yes. Well, the reason for the renewal coming to us is so that it then gets escalated.
No, it wouldn't come to.
So
Mayor
after the
Council,
2
Bob.
months,
We've
Bob
been
gets the
doing this
first
to
2
get it
months.
away
Hold
from
on,
us.
hold on. I just want to understand, if after the 60 days is up, they got to come to mayor and council?
And then they would come to mayor and council. Because then that's the escalation.
Wasn't that the purpose of the exercise? that
No,
we did?
there
No,
are
it was
two
the front,
purposes.
Because every time it was either in a front or side yard,
They had
it
to
would
come
come
to
to
us.
mayor and
But
council.
we agreed, just let Bob handle it. Now we're gonna handle it
We don't
again?
want to be part of that.
And we asked Bob for his opinion, and he gave us
Hold
an
on.
opinion, and we're
Because
ignoring it.
because most cases, and I understand the logic to this though, because in most cases, the pod's gone within
Correct.
a reasonable amount of time. Much less than the 6 months. It's usually,
Right.
They have the furniture or whatever, they're moving into a house or out of the house, or having renovation. If they have renovations, are usually the longest.
Right.
Because sometimes renovations take longer. But if you're moving out, and you have to get stuff out of the house, temporarily store it in a pod, usually moving into your new house.
Right.
Or to the state, and they're usually out. So those are not usually problems.
It's the
and
construction
six-
project. Takes longer.
Right, so we're not gonna give them an option to apply for 6 months. Those are gonna come to mayor and council.
Correct. So
After the,
there's the initial 2 months, then it comes to mayor and council.
okay, well, if you would've said that to me last time.
Well, we're not exactly in a rush for this.
We wanted
No,
to, we wanted to come to us as an escalation after the first 2 months.
See,
Who
here's how,
cares? I mean,
here's how it is now. Right now, if it's in a front or side yard, it comes to mayor and council no matter what.
No matter
Bob
what.
Doesn't have the
We're
authority to
trying to
grant
get
it.
rid of that.
Right.
Trying to get-
And in most cases, it doesn't last too long. In other
Right.
words,
The 2 months will be enough in most
it'll be enough
cases.
For most cases. So it will significantly cut the number of applications that come to mayor and council.
And also, it'll take away the time of being of the essence.
Oh, okay, well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember. When's the last time we had one?
yeah, we're not really cutting anything. Now you're just putting it back on us.
You're getting rid of the time is of the essence thing, where people need it tomorrow, and then they have to come to us, and we have to go around with the approval on
send
an
letters
email.
in.
And you're getting rid of the time is of the essence part of it. You're giving them, in the 2 months, they've got 2 months to decide if they need it for more than that. So, they can apply.
So what's
Okay.
gonna happen? There isn't one
Reasonable.
person that's gonna realize.
All of it is reasonable.
that they
We
only
should
have a
just
week left.
talk about it so that
I-
it's.
Extension.
So I know what you want. I should have asked Bob.
For engaging in a conversation, I wanna know what you're doing about the skateboard, ordinance.
Skateboard ordinance.
Skateboard ordinance.
Now it's been on old business for 2 months after 6 months
I will,
of.
All right, let's go to the mayor and council regular meeting.
Wait, I have one more old business, but it's not even on here.
Oh.
Board of Health chapter.
Board of Health one.
Right, we never did it.
Okay. Okay, well, let's do it. I think-
Omar told
did
me
you say
now I
what?
can't. No, Omar said now we can't do it anymore this year.
Because you have to.
But the question is, should that be for the good of the order or old business?
No, that's old business because we passed, or we went to pass the health inspection fines from our health inspector months ago, and it had to go in its own chapter. And we never created the own chapter to get that into the codification of the ordinances.
All right.
Where's it gonna go?
We have to make a new chapter, health and safety, whatever it is. I sent it to you, I literally sent it to you, I wrote it, I sent it to you. All right, you've been busy. Bye.
Health and safety.
I'll entertain a motion to close the work session. I use the word work
So
So moved.
very loosely.
All of us.
A second, all in favor?
Yes. Aye.
Do you want to take a 2-minute break? Because obviously nobody at this table is in a hurry to go home.
No 2-minute break.
Okay, so we'll go right into it.
Is this all statutory, the way the meeting is set up?
Say that again?
It's all statutory, the way the meeting is set up? We can't alter?
It's certainly not common sense.
What would you possibly want to change?
Okay. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted in the public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. You're going to miss my sense of humor, Shama. Salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
United States of America.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We should say thank you to the veterans on this day as
Roll
well.
call, please.
Councilmember Bash.
Here.
Councilmember Dayton.
Here.
Councilmember Grossman.
Present.
Councilmember Menon.
Here.
Councilmember Park.
Here.
Councilmember Zena.
Here.
Mayor Rustin.
Here, revisions to the agenda.
Yep, we have a couple. Resolution R 19-387, we're taking that off consent agenda, and we're moving it to December 10th meeting. And also on the consent agenda, 19-378, we're taking it off consent agenda and moving it to new business.
Okay, public comment, and Councilwoman Dayton did make a suggestion, which is a good one, and that is to thank veterans for their service. I know we had something over at Mount Carmel yesterday. Councilman Bash and I attended, and we can never, ever forget the service that our veterans have provided to our country, and we thank them very much, those that are here and those that also gave the ultimate sacrifice for their country. Public comment, anybody?
Shama Heder, 156 Stonehurst Drive, Tenafly. I have two subjects I would like to talk about. I hope I'm permitted. The first, other residents have brought this up also. I go frequently to New York on the 166 bus, and I was standing this morning at the bus stop in the very cold drizzle with a lot of other commuters. And I thought, why can't we have bus shelters? And I remember somebody mentioning that other people have brought up the same question. And I think that I looked at the bench that was there. If you have a reasonable shelter, it shouldn't interfere with the sidewalk or anything. So I'm urging Mayor and Council to think about this. Your budget season is coming up. I don't know how expensive or how inexpensive they are, but maybe even if you do a few shelters at a time over a period of time.
Actually, I think New Jersey Transit will donate them if they feel, if they approve them. One thing you got to keep in mind, though, where they're on public property, that's fine, like over on River Edge Road. But if it's like on Tenafly Road or Knickerbocker Road.
I'm talking Engle Street.
Yeah.
On the corner of Engle and Westerville. That's a very popular bus stop.
Yes, it is.
I see a lot of people there. Then sometimes down on Bliss, wherever there are the benches, actually, you always see a lot of people. Yep. So maybe you can, I don't know, that's for the council to, but I think a bus shelter, because in the winter standing there with the cold wind blowing and the bus never being really on time, it would be a blessing.
Well, Omar, would you take the time to just reach out to New Jersey Transit and ask them what the process is for acquiring bus shelters? I know they provided the big one over, you know, where the bus shelter is across from the diner, across the railroad tracks. And, you know, it might not be a bad idea to have one up on 9W too for the city bound,
Yeah,
because,
why not?
you know,
There used to be one there.
yeah, I think they moved it when they improved the intersection and it never came back.
And actually, Engle, where you were, all of Engle is a county road, and so we should ask the county as well, because the
Yeah.
county buses run through there, and those are those bus stops are along the county road, if they can help.
Okay,
Possibly.
the only thing is, like, when you get to Oak Street, where it's private property, I'm not sure you'd want to have a bus shelter in front of your house, but I think we should start with the one, I think Westervelt and Tenafly Road is a very, very popular one. It's not really in anybody's front lawn. And also, I think the one right here outside our driveway.
Right here, there's
Yeah,
one right
there's one
here.
right there. Also, the one over by the soccer cage for people going the other way, and maybe the one by Stop and Shop or by
I mean,
the...
wherever you can easily do it for a start.
Let's find out what the process is, and once we find out, you know, if New Jersey Transit or the county is willing to donate them, then we can just
Yeah.
provide a list. If it's something we have to pay for, then we have to prioritize where we want to put them. Good idea.
And my second subject is about the pond. I have learned that the mayor and council are considering spending, and this may be incorrect, so you can correct me
Is
if
this the
I'm
duck
wrong.
pond or the
Uh,
Fister's pond?
Up in the nature center, spending up to $1 million to fix that pond.
No.
Which I thought was an obscene amount of money for a man-made pond, which is fighting to go back to nature. And if it wants to go back to nature at the nature center, we should simply allow it to do so. I mean, or if the nature center is absolutely determined to save that pond, they were ready to raise 20, 30 million for buildings. They could raise $1 million for the pond. But to spend taxpayer money up to that kind of money, I remember when I was in council, the budget was $50,000 to clean up the pond. Now that it's escalated to $1 million, that's really, I mean, correct me again if I'm wrong. Is it $1 million or is it not $1 million? Is it 500,000, 600? That is still an
What did we set aside?
irresponsible amount of money.
Yeah.
Well, first, keep in mind that it's open space money, but the money we
Still
set...
taxpayer money.
The money we set aside, didn't spend, didn't commit, was $600,000.
But that's still a lot of money.
Well,
That's
and
still a
even
lot
at
of
that-
taxpayer money. I certainly don't want my money going to save a pond, which is a man-made pond.
Even at that time, we didn't commit. This was just money that, you know, and once again, the future councils will decide how, if and how any of this money
Well,
would be spent.
if you really want to save the pond, if it's so important, then let the nature center go 50-50 with you at least, if not all the money. I mean,
Got it.
there's so many other things we could spend our money on in the town to improve. We're always complaining about the roads and potholes and parks, which are of much more immediate use and need for the residents. But to spend that kind of money would be awful. And if you are going to discuss this further in a council meeting, I would really like to know when you're doing it, so I can really publicize that meeting, and I hope townspeople will come here to hear that their $1 million is going to a pond which is dying to die.
Well, hopefully you have a connection with some of the members of the governing body, and they'll tell you when we're going to discuss Fister's
I
Pond.
hope they will. I hope they will. That was my little piece. Thank you.
Don't you want to mention the lights, the lights downtown?
Oh, yes, I do want
How
to
do you
thank
feel
you for
about-
lighting
how
up
do-
the town. The
How do you
Christmas
feel
lights
about
are my
trees?
pet thing.
If the Lord wanted trees to be lit, he would have put bulbs in them. Just kidding.
That's what I thought.
Just kidding.
The Lord made us instruments to put the bulbs to light up the trees.
And I put it in the budget, so.
Okay. How do you follow that act?
I don't. Christine Nevron, 39 Leroy, President of the Chamber of Commerce. When you're talking to Suez, there are several businesses that have been very concerned about the construction that's been going on in front of the Shell station, putting them out of business for a day, in front of Honda, putting them out of business for a day. There was some concern if you could find out what kind of plan or expectation there might be going forward.
Both of the construction jobs you're talking about were emergency repairs.
No,
for-
I understand
For water
that.
main breaks.
Businesses requested if they were able to project, do they think there are going to be more of these, and how are they going to be handled?
I'll
Just
ask
if you're
them to
talking to them anyway.
We'll ask them to predict the next water main break.
Okay, and as far as LEDs in the tulip lights, LEDs are much, much more efficient than the light bulbs that I believe are in there now. Please consider that before getting rid of the project to replace 2 LED lights.
Jeff and Max, for the benefit of the rest of the council, I believe the one bulb that was replaced is in the pole by the post office.
Post office,
So on the
yes.
way home, if you want to check that bulb out and just see what Max, well, Max, you already looked, I keep forgetting, I'm going to do it tonight. You might want to look at that light post in front of the,
I'm saying, even if they look exactly the same, you may be saving a lot of money by having LED lights.
In front
well,
of the
what
post
he's
office?
saying is there's no increase in brightness.
Right,
No, but
but
that's
you
good.
may be saving a lot of money.
They last
These
longer.
are much more efficient.
And while you're here, I'd like to remind the council that the Northern Valley Greenway maybe you could send the email to everybody else. I know I got it, where the Bergen County Master Plan, Parks Master Plan did not include the Northern Valley Greenway. And there's an opportunity for anybody, citizens, to make comments about it. And if you feel strongly about the Northern Valley Greenway, you might want to go on that and comment that, I'm in the process of doing it myself, comment how, what a positive thing the project would be, and we'd like to see the county get involved in it.
And there's
I was gonna
an open meeting
discuss that.
tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Yes, this was part of the
Yeah.
meeting report.
That's okay.
Okay.
Where's the open meeting again?
We're going to close the,
Hackensack Club.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the 2 changes, eliminating L and moving C to the new business. A motion, please?
Bergen County
So
Plaza,
moved.
Hackensack.
Thank you. A second?
Second?
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Zena?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, what used to be my favorite part of the meeting, I'm not so sure anymore. Committee reports. Councilman Zena, do you have any?
I have none this evening.
No, it's going up there then. Please.
I have the Board of Adjustment meeting. There were 2 applications. There were 3 applications. One of them was carried to the next meeting. One of them was delayed to this meeting to allow the applicant to become more familiar with the process and to be able to answer questions from the board. And the application was approved. It was the one that he had done with the contractor, where the contractor didn't get approval from the building department. And so he didn't get a permit. The permit, they built it anyway. So he came back to the board to request approval.
But no, he didn't originally get turned down for the permit. He just he failed to obtain it, correct?
He signed an agreement with the contractor. The contractor apparently went to the building department, and then he quit. So he never actually got the permit. Then the person who he hired to do the work, instead of making it was, I forget what, instead of it was just it ended up being just a deck rather than a larger patio. He ended up getting, that wasn't permitted and, didn't get done. And then there was a second one on 46 Norman Place, where there's a lot of construction going on. 46 Norman, there's a lot of changes taking place, and the houses are getting, the side yard setbacks are getting closer and closer to each other, so the density. But this was another one where, because of the size of the lot, it's a 50-foot width. and, to allow for a house that can do something, they had to go into the side yard setback. It's required 15 feet on each side, so, imagine a 20-foot house, you can see that there is a bit of a hardship, so that was approved as well.
Anything else?
That's all.
Max, you have anything?
None.
Lauren?
Yes. The Board of Health met actually this week, and we will be sending out notices. There's a hepatitis A health scare throughout some areas, with 396 cases already in New Jersey. And so the Board of Health would like to remind all businesses and residents to make sure to wash their hands and to keep clean. There's also was a wonderful presentation on hoarding and how to spot, people in need of intervention. And one of the things that we have here in Tenafly, we're very lucky to have Parween, our senior services coordinator, who does attempt to intervene with families. Sometimes this is hard to find, so if any resident knows of a neighbor who might want someone to knock on their door, please let the senior services know. This is something the police and our senior services look for. And also, it's, health and safety for fire hazards and everything else. There was a very successful flu clinic that was well attended, and they're looking to make a second flu clinic coming up in the next couple of weeks. They didn't make a date yet, but they're looking to do one at the senior center and possibly another one here at Borough Hall. They're gonna see what they can do. A lot of residents attended, and if those people who haven't gotten their flu shot yet are interested, please let us know. The Board of Health is still looking to have an ordinance concerning inspections of nail salons and possibly other barbershops and hairdressers in town. I'm actually working on that right now and trying to see what the state is responsible for now in their inspections versus what the town would need to look into. The last thing that the Board of Health raised is that there is a piece of property located near TD Bank that is currently approved use for medical and dental. And if we want to keep that use, that's fine, but understand that that use might include some new recreational drug use facilities, and we cannot prevent it under that use. If we're interested in changing that use before any laws are changed, we might want to look into that now. So that's Board of Health.
Well, did they not send us a recommendation that we create some zoning that precluded, marijuana, I don't know that it included vaping, although I'm
Smoke
sure that would.
shops, cigar shops, vaping,
Yeah, so
marijuana.
maybe that's something in 2020 the council might want to consider.
Why that piece, in other words, why is that piece of property subject to that potentially? And
It
as the mayor said,
it's
the
part-
others
it's
aren't.
part
It's
of
part
the-
of the zone
It's
in
part
which
of
that's
the entire
allowed.
zone.
But
Okay.
the majority of that zone is taken with other types of businesses, so that is one piece of property that is currently being looked at.
And that's the piece of property that has the parking lot built, but it's all green grass that's never been built there.
All right. So again, I'm not making any recommendation one way or the other. I'm just raising it. The Board of Health raised it. Oh, and the last issue, I'm not even sure if we should be discussing this right now, but just to let everyone know, there was a remediation work being done at the plaza. And so that's for further discussion. I need to get all the facts together, and then we'll discuss it probably at the next meeting. I'll put it on the agenda. And the welcoming committee met. They are looking for space in Borough Hall to store things for the various events that they do. They're also looking for some new members. If anyone knows someone who would be nice on the welcoming committee, it does meet during the day. The Chamber of Commerce had a very nice presentation from Christine, and the discussions were about the downtown and what would go into the budget. There was a request to paint the lampposts downtown, that they were flaking, the paint was flaking, so if somebody can check on that. They were also preparing for the American Express Small Business Saturday event, which is very nice. If any small business is interested in attending, please speak to Christine Evron. And I invite you all, mayor and council, to the Lighting Up the Night Holiday Parade. And December 5th at 6 p.m., we hope our residents come out. There will be menorah lighting, a Christmas tree lighting, a creche, and hot chocolate. And last year we had cookies, so please come join the celebration. There will also be a holiday parade if the kids would like to participate.
5th,
And,
5th.
Go ahead.
December 5th.
December 5th at 6 p.m. The joint use is coming up. If anyone has anything for joint use, please let the mayor and I know. We'll be attending. And then, as the mayor said, the Northern Valley Greenway just held a meeting. It was actually on election night, so I didn't get to attend. But right now, the most important thing we could do is to support the Bergen County Parks Master Plan, looking at this space as viable. Our project is well underway, and Andrew McKesh is doing an excellent job as its leader. We need to get our public involved and responding. So there is a website, and again, there's a meeting tomorrow at 2 Bergen County Plaza. Christine, do you know what time that meeting is?
7 o'clock.
7 p.m. So if you're interested in hearing about all of the parks in Bergen County, plus the Greenway project, please attend. That's it.
You said there's a menorah lighting on December the 5th. Anybody know?
Not menorah lighting, no.
Oh, we're not lighting the menorah?
No,
Well, that's-
sorry, we're just having seasonal Jewish songs.
It's not Hanukkah, that's why
Okay,
I'm asking.
my mistake. Seasonal Jewish songs. The menorah lighting will be later in the month during Hanukkah.
Except that that's
Okay.
Christmas Eve.
Thank you.
Jeff, you have anything?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Of course. I'll go through it quickly, though. I just want to update, the planning board had a meeting last Wednesday. It's the second meeting of hearings on Bottle King's application to go into the site on County Road where the Kia dealership was. There were really two witnesses that came Wednesday night. The architect briefly talk about the design. There's been a change, small change in the design to allow trucks to back in for deliveries. Instead of being perpendicular to Piermont Road, they'll be able to back in parallel to Piermont Road along the loading dock. And what that will do is make it just easier for them to get into space without having to encumber traffic on the road. The other witness was the owner of Bottle King. He came and talked about the business a bit, talked about the hours of operation, when they would anticipate deliveries of product, and how many employees were there and how late the employees usually stay. He answered some other questions dealing with the operations. The main witness that's still left to go is the traffic study. That has not been presented yet. So there will be further hearings, and that will be the primary witness. So that's the planning board. Stigma-free.
Wait, I'm sorry,
Huh?
when's the next meeting? What day?
You're asking me a tough question.
Sorry.
I don't have it right now.
I'll give it to you in a
Okay.
second.
I have it. December 11th.
December 11th.
That's right, December 11th. The day after our next meeting here. That's the easy way to remember it. Stigma-free committee met. They are looking for ways to have outreach, just to inform the public, to let the public know that they are there, and B, that what stigma-free is about, how to address it. They would like signs put up around, at the edges of town, and we've already talked to Bob Culvert about that. He is procuring those signs that were like other towns around. They also are reaching out, they want to reach out to Tenafly basketball, THS basketball, to have a lime green out, if they think that maybe they can get boys to wear green socks for a game to raise awareness. They've invited someone from Alpine, so Alpine is combining some efforts with Tenafly on stigma-free. They also are talking, they have a student representative there from the high school who's going to talk to the student organization and see if a stigma-free club might be formed at the high school. And then just a lot of brainstorming about where to reach out, religious organizations, different town events. They're going to be trying to set up tables at all the back-to-school nights, or I guess it's not back-to-school, but parent-teacher conferences that are coming up. So they want to increase visibility. That's stigma-free. HPC met, let me just bring that up real quickly. I already talked about, I don't need to bring it up. I already talked about their discussion on lighting at the railroad station, which is a really important issue because it is truly a centerpiece. When you come into town, that's one of the first things that hits you, and it's a gem. They also have been working, they want to change, right now along the north side, just a series of garbage cans. It looks atrocious. They know that. So they are working with, they have a designer, an architect on the HPC board, on the commission. He's been working to draw up plans. He's been talking to the owner, to Bob Culvert, to see what's possible in terms of making it look a little better. They're talking about design, which I've already discussed with Lindsay over in building department to see what, if anything, might need approval because they're looking at a fence or partial fence plus shrubs to hide roll-off garbage bins. And I also talked to the police chief briefly because we have to see if there's anything with sight angles that would interfere with cars. Shouldn't be a problem because it would only be cars heading from Washington Street, turning right. There's no oncoming traffic issues because that's a one-way street.
Want to try and get the garbage cans away from the wall of the building so that
Correct.
the building looks better, and try and hide them.
And they want to put them on slabs and minimize, at least Bob Culvert's suggestion was minimizing plantings because that actually, according to him, attracts rodents in particular. So that's all part of the goal to start to make this building as attractive as humanly possible. It's already gorgeous, but between lighting, hiding garbage should be improvements. Last but not least, last week we had a meeting of the DPW committee. It's a long list of things. What I really want to emphasize is that they have a great plan in place for clearing leaves, especially around schools, that schools are being cleared on Saturdays so that when the school opens on Monday, unless you have owners like me who can't clear leaves during the weekdays, if it's a landscaper and they come along and do it on weekdays, it will be gone by Monday. So at least it won't be too bad. And I did check, first of all, they were in the Smith School area as I was clearing leaves. They were picking them up. They also had hit several of the schools I went and personally checked. I assume they hit all because that was the word I was given, and the ones I checked were beautifully done. They're going through, trying to make it hard. They're ready for the snow season. We talked about lights for downtown, which has already been mentioned. Mayor, Max, anything else that you recall from the meeting of significance?
Can I comment on the LEAP for a second?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're doing a really nice job this year. And there's two things I want to raise. One, on the streets that are main thoroughfares, Jefferson, Angle, East Clinton, I'd like to try to make some sort of conscious effort to put leaves only on one side. What happens is the leaves on those roads become on both sides and they're almost undrivable.
Yeah, but you can't ask an owner. I as an owner, especially on Main Road, would not take all my leaves and cross the road
You
with
can't
a
ask them to
My
leaf
neighbor
blower.
does it to me.
Well,
I
but-
mean, we have like one corner that
Yeah.
the whole block kind of.
Yeah.
There's no traffic on your street. You
I
can't
know.
ask people to go across East Clinton with
With
a
leaves.
pile of leaves.
Okay, just a thought, because those roads, especially, they're the most driven in town,
Yeah.
No,
and they're the most effective when people put the leaves on both sides.
You're right.
Well, I agree, but not every landscaper listens to that.
That's a problem. And that is something that may be addressed as to in the future how far into a lane a person can pile the leaves, because now the thing seems to be, I've noticed landscapers doing it, is they're compressing it rather than having it along the curb, and that's forcing, I've seen 3/4 of a lane blocked in some cases. So maybe that is something we could look at.
Or just have them follow DPW's suggestion of mulching leaves on the lawn.
I know there's been complaints on Knickerbocker that the road is severely narrowed.
But that should be the emphasis, I think, if, you know.
Mulching
with
leaves.
mulching leaves.
We're also, I should mention that we're going to need a big initiative next year on recycling before we bring in the trucks, because a lot of what's being thrown into the stream is garbage and will never fly. We won't be able to send these things to recycling centers.
The guys are very good at the recycling center, but they're all over the residents, and rightfully so, because despite the signage, people are still trying to throw stuff into the plastic bin that, plastic bags and stuff like that. And we're gonna be in trouble if we don't educate the people prior to those canisters with big lids, because once the lid is closed, you can't see whether it's correct or not, so.
Yeah, the plastic bags are really hurting and costing on the bottle recycling.
I'm hoping
Yes.
that the
Yeah.
Environmental Commission will
really
be
killing
doing
us.
something next year about that?
Yeah.
And
Is
then
that it, Jeff?
I have one more, I'm sorry.
That's all four of them.
I just want to just say that the dump truck has come through my street and the leaf loader with the arm that actually does the suction. And the difference in the cleanup of the street is so drastic. And I know we didn't put in the leaf loader into the budget last year, but I have to tell you, the street, when the leaf loader came through with its arm and suction arm, was so much cleaner. There was no debris, there was nothing left over. The dump truck, leaves a layer of leaves that it just can't get up, off the ground. And it's just such a nicer, cleaner job. I do want to, in the future, think about more leaf loaders.
Well, to that, not more leaf loaders, but to that, for anybody listening on Channel 77, please remember when you put your leaves out to the side, branches, large sticks, stones, anything like that, which are getting into streets. We're finding out from DPW, they're saying this is what they're encountering, and that inhibits the ability to use the suction to pull it up.
Okay.
In fact, can break the equipment, it
Right.
slows them way down, and it's just, the idea is leaves are what should be going into the street right now, not branches. If you want to throw out branches, put them in a can, and they'll be picked up with your regular garbage. And stones can go in the garden.
I think we need to give some rules too, some information maybe that residents can hand to their landscapers. These are the rules of the town, if someone has a landscaper. And I think that's really the problem, is there's this disconnect. Maybe the resident knows it, but then the company they hire to maintain their property isn't.
The landscapers know the rules.
Well, maybe
They
we should
do, they
remind
actually
them.
choose to not, and they're, it's a difference between the boss knowing the rules and the people that are actually out
Doing
there
the work.
working, that many of whom don't even speak English well.
Whatever it is.
Dan, you have anything?
I do not.
Okay, let's move to new business, introduction of ordinances. Would somebody like to read the?
Want me to read it?
Sure.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that ordinances 19-20 and 19-21 be introduced and passed on the first reading and setting Tuesday, December 10th, 2019 at 8 p.m. as soon thereafter as the matter can be heard as the date and time at the Tenafly Municipal Center.
Omar?
Moved.
Second.
A second?
He moved.
Okay.
Second. Sorry.
Ordinance number 19-20, bond ordinance providing for various ADA improvements to the restrooms in the municipal building by the Borough of Tenafly, appropriating $123,000, therefore including the grant in the amount of $98,400 expected to be received from the County of Bergen, and authorizing the issuance of $117,000 in bonds or notes of the borough to finance the part of the cost thereof. Ordinance number 19-21, an ordinance of the Borough of Tenafly and the County of Bergen New Jersey, appropriating $75,000 for an ADA walkway at Roosevelt Common.
Okay,
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Bash?
yes.
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Zena?
Yes.
All right, new
Okay.
bathrooms and walkways.
So I got one more, we're gonna do C now from the, 387 is what? No. Back. Engineer. I'm just looking for the one item from the battery.
The one that we didn't vote on?
The one that we didn't, I got it. Okay, we need to take a vote on Resolution 19-378 to appoint John Natch to the Recreation Board for a term effective starting today and ending on January 1st, 2021. Just please call the roll.
Okay. Councilmember Bash?
No.
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
No.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Zena?
No.
So I get the opportunity to break the tie, and I'm going to vote yes. I think that's it. There's no mayor's remarks tonight. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to go home?
moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Please call, please have a nice evening.